Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
Ho, 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 John. Now, I know that people will be listening to this years from now. I anticipate that sometime in the far-flung future, whatever humanity becomes later and evolves into, possibly they are, just like at the end of AI, maybe interdimensional traveling, weird-looking alien types. They will look to our podcast as a record of what time was like.
I hope so.
The past. And but so in other words, this will make no meaning or sense to them, but it's almost Christmas as we're recording this.
Yes. And is there a more holiday-centric movie?
Well, I didn't want to do this on the air, but I did get you a little something.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
I got you a shitty movie from 1996 that fails on every conceivable level.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
And if it's not what you're looking for, I kept the receipt.
Oh,
you
good.
can return it.
Just let me know where you got it.
Oh, boy. Bordello of Blood, ladies and gentlemen.
1996's Bordello of Blood. This is an interesting one because you're right, it fails on every level, and yet it's not, it's not as incompetent as some of the stuff. But it's interesting to see like a polished studio movie that fails on every level.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I
That's
mean,
kind of thing.
We have seen much worse.
We have. It's
clearly.
It's somehow more because when the movie looks cheap and stuff too, you're going like, well, this thing never had a chance. But this one is like, oh, people.
This one had a chance. It had backing, and it was coming off
this.
a successful franchise on television, cable, and it had talent involved. And I will say I'm being harsh because one level, I will say technically, like there's some decent makeup effects and decent gore effects.
There are. Yeah, that stuff works. There's one good performance in the movie.
Yeah, Corey Feldman.
The Feldmeister. Fresh out of rehab.
Corey's pretty great.
Corey's pretty good, and I think Chris Sarandon is good in this.
I love Chris Sarandon. I don't think, I mean, he's doing this caricature of a televangelist type
I think he knows
game.
He
He's
knows the assignment,
there.
I guess is what I would say. And I think that's a huge difference compared to every other actor in the movie who just so badly doesn't want to be here.
Or is incredibly incompetent.
Yes.
And no offense to a lovely woman who was going through a hard time in her life.
I do think she is really trying here.
She's trying. She's just way out of her depth.
Way out of her depth. A guy who literally isn't there most of the time.
Now, a lot of our information, I mean, how much of the backstory did you know before you listened to the podcast?
Not much.
How not to make a movie?
Not much, really. Really not
I had
at all.
heard sort of contemporarily or very quickly after it bombed, Dennis Miller, I don't think it was self-preservation, but he was mocking his own movie almost instantly.
Well, yeah.
And you would get stories about, it was a real disaster from start to finish. So that's all I really knew. I do recommend to our listeners, and I think you would too, listening to the podcast, How Not to Make a Movie, which
Absolutely.
is a podcast, at least season one, completely about the making of this film.
Yeah, season 2 is more individual stories, shorter arcs of different movies or people's careers. The Stephen E. D'Souza episodes of season 2, I highly recommend because that guy has stories for days.
Yes, he does indeed. This is a very and by the way, that podcast is it's the writing partners of Adler and who's the other guy?
I have it here. Hold on.
Katz?
Oh God. Sorry. When you click on Adler and Katz, Gilbert Adler, A.L. Katz.
Right. And Adler is also the director of this film, and it was the first feature he had directed.
Yeah, and they were heavily involved in the Tales from the Crypt TV show. So they were guys. This was sort of them getting the boost up to make one of the movies.
Right.
And Tales from the Crypt at this point is hugely successful on TV, has had a reasonable hit with their previous movie, Demon Knight. Like, it did well. Not huge.
Demon Knight is also Demon
Knight's pretty fun.
As suits a Tales from the Crypt movie.
Yeah.
It is campy horror.
Yeah.
And just like the TV show. So it worked. And I enjoyed it. I saw that in the theater.
And legitimately, I think I made a joke about this last week, but legitimately, Zane is a huge part of that, because Zane is everything Dennis Miller is not in this movie. Zane is, number one, a good actor, and number two, game. He gets the material and he goes, got it. It's the same reason why we'll always talk about why he was such a good fucking Phantom, man, because he got exactly what the tone of that needed to be.
Agreed. And here you have a guy who, what Joel Silver, producer, what they're hoping for with Dennis Miller, they're hoping for a Bill Murray. Like, they're literally sitting there going, please be a Peter Venkman for us. Where it's like, yeah, you are funny, but you are still the hero, and you're going to save the day and woo the woman.
I kept thinking about Bruce Willis. Now, I think the Bill Murray comparison actually is probably closer, but that same thing of the wisecracking action hero.
Right, but the thing is...
But yeah.
This is a person who not only didn't want to be there, it's a person who can't act.
And will tell you that, and told them that.
Yes, and nothing impacts this character in any way. No. So if you are above not only the material as an actor, but your character is above and snarky about real consequences of blood and death and kidnapping and vampirism and the supernatural.
Hey, come on, babe. It's some vampires. Cha-cha.
Then you're not a hero. Then no one cares.
No.
No one cares about a death or a near miss.
One of the most unlikable heroes we've ever seen in a movie. We've seen bland, boring heroes, but this guy I straight up don't like. Although I will say this, and I do like because I do like Dennis Miller as a comedian. And the maybe 6 to 7 times I actually laughed were probably just at Dennis Miller riffs. Like, there's a couple
there's a couple
funny
lines that
one-liners. And then I go like, he definitely improvised that because that sounds like a Dennis Miller joke. That's not good for the movie, though, is what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. That's the thing is, like, the man has comic chops.
No one would ever
delivers a line here or there. I'm like, oh, yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean... The one that really got me in particular was that felt like a thing from his show was when he walks into the church for the first time. He goes, what is this, Superman's dad's palace here, babe? Like, it's just like, oh yeah, dropping the pop culture reference, which is very much his thing, and it is just like,
there are lots of that.
And the thing about him not being an actor, because this is part of the run of. It really does seem like Hollywood, for some reason, wanted this guy.
Hollywood tried. Yeah, they wanted him
but it seems like he didn't give a shit, which is funny. That he was just like, okay, I guess I'll be in the movie. But it is like everything I remember him being in. He's Wesley Snipes' partner in Murder at 1600. And so...
Well, here's the thing. Some comedians and SNL actors and so forth... the ideal use of them is as the funny best friend.
It is, but
because their acting talents are meager.
They are meager,
but they will fill that role. And I liked Dennis Miller as side guy in plenty of.
But
things.
the thing I was going to say just about all of his performances, and it's very much the case here. And the problem is why it's detrimental to this movie, of course, is that he's the main character. But everything was always. Dennis Miller's a cop, it's just Dennis Miller, like he's in the net playing like a tech guy going, I'm Dennis Miller, computer expert, babe.
Yep.
He was on David E. Kelly's Boston Public. Do you remember that show?
I do remember Boston Public, but he wasn't a regular.
No, but he did like an arc in one of the later seasons. And I remember being on there, he's just like, here comes Dennis Miller as a teacher, babe, with the one-liners and the cha-cha. It's just like, like, here he comes. He was the bad boy teacher, too, where it's like, I'm going to tell you kids how it was very much like, no, I don't want to get off on a rant here. But here's the thing, you just saying like, and it clearly was like, we have no idea what to do with this show, so can we just put the camera on Miller and have him come up with some material. Hey, babe, I'm just telling the kids how it's like. But it is just sort of like, Dennis Miller is truly a stand-up in that sense, where it's like, you are paying for him. He is always Dennis Miller, and you can put a gun and a badge on him, and now he's Dennis Miller as a cop. But it is kind of like,
you're only going to get the one thing.
Yeah, and I mean, because I listened to that podcast when it was coming out, as did you, and then I also watched the Shout Factory making of. I don't own this movie, thank God. I would never want to own this, but somebody...
I deleted it off my hard drive the second I finished watching.
Thankfully, someone uploaded that documentary to YouTube, so I watched the documentary, which is kind of just a half-hour encapsulation of everything said on that podcast, but you get to talk to more people. Oh, Christ, Feldman's all over that thing, man. And I gotta say, I've seen Feldman on so many Shout Factory documentaries that I think he calls them, honestly. He goes, you guys
Quite
need
possibly.
me to tell some stories about the Burbs? Because he's on. I have the Shout Factory of the Burbs, and he is on that.
He breaks my heart a little bit in a weird way.
He does.
Because and I don't know the truth of the stories that we've heard about what he and Corey Haim went through as youngsters.
I mean, but what became of them, we can certainly say something probably happened to them. Because they both
absolutely.
ended up pretty
And even
tortured
if it is just about drugs and lifestyle and whatever, there's that. But it is undeniable when you watch, just like we were talking about in Silver Bullet a million years ago.
Yeah. Or Lost Boys.
They were both. And and Feldman, possibly because he's still alive, somewhere in him, this talent remains. He is good. You're like, I really wish that guy's life had straightened out. And
just watched, because it's the holiday season of record this, I just watched Gremlins the other night. He's the little brother in that, and he's great. You know, I mean, he was always good. Goonies and stuff like that. But even on and I will say, he is
Stand by Me.
Stand by Me is fucking great in, man. But I will say he is good. He does have the stories on the thing. However,
it's amazing he remembers anything.
Well, I do like that he goes on this. He goes, well, I just needed a job, man, and I was fresh out of rehab, and Bordello of Blood was shooting. I'm going like, and I think he does say, I was fresh off my first stint in rehab, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, just it didn't take, man. But I will say, it is very, of course, he remembers I was totally reasonable, and everyone else was a huge piece of shit, and I'm going like, okay, I'm not saying. Look, no one's gonna doubt that Dennis Miller was an asshole. However,
according to the podcast, both those guys are like, Corey was totally pro.
But he tells this story that he goes, "Oh, when I get up to Canada, man, the thing about it is, I call up Dennis Miller and I say, hey, Dennis, this script isn't very funny. Oh, what say you and I get together and write some new jokes?" He goes, I've actually ghost written almost all the movies I've been in. And that's where and he goes, yeah, babe, I think I'll take care of the jokes. And I was like, what the hell? And I'm going like, all right, that's not a story of Dennis Miller being an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like when Corey Feldman calls up professional comedian Dennis Miller and says, can I help you write funny bits for this movie? I don't think that makes Dennis Miller a piece of shit to go. And he goes, I'd seen Dennis back when back in my brief stand-up. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Feldman's stand-up had to be horrible.
I cannot imagine Feldman stand-up.
But
seeing
also,
as how I have seen Feldman, music.
Oh my God, that Today Show appearance is still one of the single strangest things, and that is like seek help, Corey. Really, man.
Seek help,
because
now.
But he's just, and then he's like, then I call up Erica Eleniak and I say, hey, we're playing brother and sister. Maybe we should get together and have a drink so we can establish some chemistry. And she said no. I was like, what's going on here? I'm going like, yeah, I kind of get, once again, I'm going like, I kind of get why she said no. You know what I mean? Like, it's that thing where he's, that's what I mean. I don't think he was an asshole on the set, but it is kind of going like, you are framing this in like, I don't understand why nobody would hang out with me and whatever, you know? Because he goes, I've only ever been best friends with everybody who works for me. And this was a favor to Donner that they cast him in this, because Donner was a producer on Tales from the Crypt, and he had used him. He and Dante
he
used
had
Feldman.
been in a lot of them, and
Donner produced Lost Boys. He directed Goonies, and then Joe Dante, who's in that same group, had used Feldman a lot. So, and you're right. He is him out of rehab. It kind of makes sense that it's like, this is my comeback, man. So I'm gonna go for it. Like he's game, man, and he is pretty good in this. Erica Eleniak is the one who really, because she doesn't talk on the podcast, but she talks on this documentary, and they actively refute things she says on the making of in that podcast that I'll get to when we get to them. But she's saying things where I'm going like, dude, I listened to that podcast, and those guys have the exact opposite story about you.
That's what's great about getting it from multiple sources.
Everybody does. It is a sad thing because it's on the documentary too, and on the podcast. Everybody says such nice things about Angie Everhart as a person.
Oh, sure.
Everybody talks about how sweet she is, and also, she's going through emotional turmoil during not to the level of a Val Kilmer from Island of Dr. Moreau, where he's getting divorced and actually losing his mind while making the movie.
No, but she was going through hard times, and you add on, this is a leading role in a movie, and I haven't done this before.
The only thing I will say is, on the documentary, she goes, okay, everybody says I just got this movie because of Sly. But if that was the case, I still had to audition, and they still picked me, so maybe he got me in the door. It's like, oh, honey. Oh, Angie, you can't. Of course, Sylvester said to Joel Silver, who produced this.
Put my girl in there,
Put Angie in the movie. She'll be really good. And also,
I need her out of the way for a bit because, got a little something on the side.
Well, I do. They talk about that on the podcast, the idea of going like, you should shoot in Vancouver because I'm shooting a movie in Seattle so we can be together. And then about halfway through, she was like, actually, could you, keep her up there so she can never see me?
That is so gross, but it's true.
It's so gross, and it's so... We're talking Stallone at the height of movie stardom and ego there, right? So he's just going yeah, I'm getting married to this supermodel, but also I'm banging 16 other girls, I just don't get. And also, she does talk about. She goes, apparently Joel Silver was just really excited about having a supermodel, and I'm like, oh, that adds up.
Yeah, that adds up.
So all of that. What I love is everything we've talked about leading up to this has nothing to do with a plot or a movie. That's kind of the problem here. This is such a manufactured piece of content. Nobody wanted to make this movie because they talk about this on the podcast and in the thing. That this script got handed to them. It wasn't even like we came up with this idea as the writers of Tales from the Crypt. It was this, because this is a script as credited the story to the Bobs, Bob Zemeckis, Bob Gale.
It was one of the things they wrote in the early 70s when they were still in school.
Yeah, right out of during film school. And Zemeckis basically was just like, hey, Universal, I'll keep making movies for you if you just pay us for this script.
Yeah.
Because they were so worried about losing him to DreamWorks, which they then did. Because of course he's gonna go work for the studio that his best pal owns. What are you talking about? Spielberg was like, do whatever you want, Bob. So they were like, yeah, we'll do Bordello Blood. And then because they had a 3-picture deal with Tales from the Crypt, this movie is the reason they only made 2. But
yeah, this tanked that whole concept.
I do wonder though. I mean, I understand because it's a business thing, and it is but maybe the third one could have been better and actually done well. It's because they're not direct sequels. I don't know. Was there no interest in another Tales from the Crypt?
And I will say, this was even in the day, especially in the day.
Yeah,
this was fairly cheap.
In other words,
it tanked.
$13 million production budget. I'm looking at here.
Yeah. And so I think they could have gambled on a
5.7 worldwide gross.
Yeah, they just that's.
And I will say, also watching the movie, I don't know that, and I enjoy Demon Knight, but I don't know that Tales from the Crypt should be making movies though. On the reverse side of it, because this could have been a fine meh episode, 30-minute episode of the show.
Well, that's the thing. The reason I think that Tales from the Crypt as a series works so well is they are mimicking the format, obviously, of the comics that they're based on. those are short stories. They are creepy, fun.
I'm a big
campy.
fan. I really enjoy that show. And actually, I've been doing a rewatch of that show because of those guys on the podcast. That podcast, there's another podcast. I don't know if you know that's attached to. There's a sister podcast to Best Movies Never Made, which is called Dads from the Crypt, which is guys doing a rewatch.
Rewatch
of Tales from the Crypt. So I've been rewatching some of the episodes, and they're pretty good. I mean, like, I'm still just in like the first season, and it's an anthology show, so some are better than others, but it's fun, and they're all like 25 to 28 minutes long. I was excited for this movie as a kid because I loved Tales from the Crypt, and I loved Dennis Miller Live, the HBO show. I know I was a weird kid, like as a young kid, being like, I sure do enjoy all of Dennis's jokes about the Lewinsky scandal.
I sure do love every time he'll make an offhanded reference to Russian literature.
But I think there was something in that Bill Murray thing you're talking about. I was really drawn to anyone with snark as a kid like that. So even if I didn't fully understand, just that attitude was appealing to me. Just like, oh, here's an adult being shitty, and it was fun. Like,
Well, being superior.
Right.
That's always a thing. And the reason I think it works when you have, though I've read a lot of modern takes on Ghostbusters, because of course that series has been, or at least that first film has been reviewed through modern lens. Yeah. And a lot of people going, Venkman's an asshole.
Oh,
it's like, God, this guy is terrible.
I've had this argument with people in person, and I will never give an inch on it because Venkman is a childhood hero of mine. He's one of my favorite characters in all of film.
It's like a lot of people now are looking at the sarcastic heroes of the 80s, 90s. And that does include Dennis Miller. It includes Letterman. It includes people and they go, why did people think that's funny? It's about intellectual superiority and cruelty that gets rewarded because, they are crazy clever. And you're like, okay, yeah. But the thing I will always say is, even Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters, the difference between him and whatever this guy, Gutman, Rafe Gutman in this movie.
By the way, horrible name.
Yeah. The reason that it's night and day is that Venkman, that you can tell there's a beating heart. He loves his friends. He is in love with Dana. The only way he knows how to show it is in this puckish schoolboy, like, this is my only thing I have, is to be this
I think
dude.
People look at the Dana thing in Ghostbusters as too on the surface of, like, he just likes her because she's hot. It's like, no, I think there's a real, and also, like, that scene when he comes outside of the orchestra hall, he's cute when he's doing that little dance with his feet and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. He's very... And I love that...
This is the way he woos.
Sigourney Weaver even plays it like, I can't believe some of this charm is working on me. I mean, I think that's...
There's also a lot of it in her performance that does make it
And that is... Holy shit, is that missing between Dennis Miller and Erica Eleniak in this?
Oh, there's nothing there.
Jesus. There's nothing there. It is painful to watch.
Yep.
Let's talk about this poster real quick, because we don't need to say much about it, because I do love, if anything speaks to this, they are, and this is what I remember the trailers even being mostly Crypt Keeper. And as a kid, like a lot of 90s kids, loved the Crypt Keeper. I thought he was so fun, because I do think he was kind of, as a kid, who was, I liked monster stuff, but also was a little bit scared of it too, like a lot of kids, right? I do think the Crypt Keeper always kind of made Tales from the Crypt fun. It was always kind of like, I remember watching it as a kid and being like, oh, there's a humorous bent to this that I enjoy.
Sure.
And it was...
Well, it's basically him saying, don't take this too seriously. I'm going to do terrible puns. And, I mean, literally, the comics are like that, too.
Yeah, they are, yeah. Because I do remember also at this time, because of that show, I had some of the, like, reprintings and collections that they had put out of the comics when the show came out. No, it's absolutely, that's the case here. And I do think the Crypt Keeper may be the best part of this movie. The thing with him and William Sadler. By the way, fucking William Sadler is that mummy. Talk about a guy who's going for it.
I know. No,
What are you
it's
doing?
so weird. Because it kicks it off, and you're like, "What?" And then you're like, "Oh, this is like an episode, clearly." Where you have the bracket. The bracket is I introduce it, I'll see it out.
It's even the movie version of that, though, because I'm going like, well, I don't remember this many extras being around in any Crypt Keeper openings and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
But yes, here on the poster, we have the Crypt Keeper with some cool guy sunglasses, a plaid jacket with an ascot. He's toasting a martini, and he's
supposed to be looking like a playboy.
Yeah, and there's just a woman's legs. We're looking through a woman's legs from the side as one knee is bent
she's
up.
framing his face there with the one leg up and the other one down, and she's wearing a lacy
and
thing.
The Crypt Keeper is going, not bad.
Yeah, amazingly, he's looking at us and not at her vagina.
Well, let's be honest, the Crypt Keeper can't do anything about whatever he feels about
says
that.
You.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think there's much going on down there.
And then we get the Tales from the Crypt logo on her leg. And Tales from the Crypt presents,
Bordello,
and then a boring font, Bordello of Blood.
But I just love the idea of this is just, they're not pitching the movie at all. They're just going like, you like Tales from the Crypt, right? Come see that in the theater next week, you know?
Yeah, sure, here you go.
And like I said, I remember going to see movies in the theater this time and seeing the logo and seeing the trailer, and it would be the Crypt Keeper going, "Hello, kiddies, we've got a new movie," and I was like, "Oh, if it's a Crypt Keeper movie, I'm on board."
But you can't see it. You're not old enough.
Yeah. But it is definitely pitching like, and this one's going to be sexy. Because I'm looking at the Demon Knight poster, which is much better actually.
Yeah, of course.
Because
it's actually kind of the movie.
Well, it's still the Crypt Keeper, but he's holding a comic book with the main character from the movie on it. And you're like, oh,
I don't remember that poster.
Oh, yeah, click on the thing. It should be on the related on IMDb there. It's pretty good. But he's going like, see, I'll tell you this story about Billy Zane.
That's so weird. Yeah, that is the proper poster, but I always just focused on the figure on the comic book cover.
But see, that movie, that's what I'm saying. That one is more indicating it is a Tales from the Crypt movie. Here it is Tales from the Crypt plus the promise of boobs.
And we got that.
You do, but it does feel, even this movie feels like it's a late night cable movie in some of the boob scenes.
Oh, yeah, this isn't,
No, yeah, this isn't.
Except for I know one person who loved it.
This is the finest. This is the finest film I have seen in the theater.
Finally, some vampire hookers.
Since Embrace of the Vampire. I'd say this.
Hey, 90s the best. 90s is the best decade for monster movies. That's what I'm saying.
That's a double feature.
Yeah, that's right.
And
hey, roll that part back again.
Yeah, I got some Jergens lotion.
I'm
ready to rumble.
This movie does have my favorite thing in these like sexy monster movies is where you're going, the women, when you get into the brothel and you're like, and it's a mix of the women who would take their tops off and the women who wouldn't.
In a weird way, but just because you're not you're certainly not involved in the story in this movie. You're not like going, ooh, this is a reality.
What
so
story?
You're just thinking
the
of
story
in terms of
is the title. There's a bordello with vampires in it. Kind of end of story.
Yeah, but when you're doing this, when you're watching it, you're thinking about production. You're just thinking about, and you are sitting there going, she agreed. Yeah. She's clearly Penthouse. She's clearly Playboy. And that is an actual actress who's trying something, but she's not taking her top off. And you sit there going, you have two leads, one of whom was primarily famous for taking her top off in a movie, and another one who was primarily famous for being a lingerie model, who had also, I think, been in Playboy by this point.
Maybe,
So, and they don't take their tops off.
No.
All you can see is different contracts. You're like, who signed what? Who signed this?
The thing that got me about and once again, I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like an asshole, but
I don't think that's going to happen.
Erica Laniak, they talk about her in the podcast, and she even talks about this a little bit in the documentary. This is a time when she goes, I wanted to make the transition into being a serious actress. And you're going like, look, you're just not good. She's just not good, man. She was never good in anything. I
mean, she's absolutely correct. For her own life, she should make choices that she wants to make.
I'm not saying shut up and take your clothes off, but I am just kind of going like, you do need to be realistic about what you're doing. You know, the fact that she ends up after this, I looked at her career, and to this day still doing like Lifetime movies. I'm going, okay, that's what I mean. You don't have to, you don't have to be an object, of course not. But
especially at that point, and this will make me sound like a jerk. At that point, you're not above that kind of thing, and you should not be surprised if there's an expectation.
Well, and
you are totally fine, and it's
say no,
legit for you to say no.
But it is sort of like the idea about like, I don't understand. Don't you want me for my talent? And she even
also, as according to the podcast, she did sign, and at that point, it was in the script that her character would be an ex-porn star, and there would be at least a nude scene.
Now,
and then when they're making the movie, she goes, I will not do that.
You've brought up exactly the point I want to make about where she says the opposite. She goes, it's such a bummer because there was this fun subplot about my character being an ex-porn star, but it got cut. She goes, I was really excited to kind of play that other side of her too. And you're like, fuck hilarious. Off. I know that's not true.
Yeah.
It just goes like, it's just such a shame because that would have been really fun.
She rewrote history there.
She definitely did.
And again, I want to make it clear. We should both make it clear. Yeah. No, actresses, you're not expected to do
I will
something that makes you uncomfortable. But anyone that gets signs a contract saying you'll do a thing.
Yeah, I don't think this movie would have been improved by a subplot about her being an ex-porn star by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I think it was mainly there for comedy and character.
Right.
And it even dangles, like there's a remnant of it in this movie.
There is.
And you go, since we know the backstory, we can go, oh, I can't believe that even got left in because it's never picked up on.
Right, because he's working in an old porno theater, Dennis Miller. And
his office is in an abandoned movie theater.
And there's a bunch of porn posters.
Yeah, there are porn posters with her, as we know, the name of her character. And the dangling remainder is him going, for several times in the movie, are you sure I don't know you from somewhere?
Yeah.
That's the gag that would have paid off when it was like...
I mean, because they just sort of thing about like, I don't know about a nude scene, but the fact that she put the kibosh in the whole subplot is like, couldn't the payoff have just been she was on one of those posters and that's the end of it? Yeah, not even in that particular revealing a thing. Yeah, no, but
she didn't even want the reveal.
I don't want to be in any way portrayed as sexual in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's interesting.
And it wasn't there a body double for the one scene at the end where Angie Everhart is like
I think
feeling her up?
I think you're right. Yeah, because it is weirdly cut off too at the neck. There had to be.
Yeah, she's like, I won't even with my clothes on. I don't want to be filmed having a woman like grabbing my boob.
And that is kind of one of those things where you just sort of going like, that's fair, but you did read the script, and I don't think they put that in afterwards. And also, even as like sleazy as this movie is, it's not that sleazy, really. I mean, like it's
no, it's not. There's implications of stuff, but really, I mean, this is just like if you flash back to the 80s when you had even like dumb comedies had boobs every few minutes where Stripes, again, I guess Bill Murray's on my brain, where like, did Stripes need boobs? Brain. No, it's a comedy, certainly, but did it have boobs? Because they all did back then.
They just that's it exactly. They just all did. It wasn't even. It was just a given. Yeah. All right.
And if I have my way, we'll go back to that. TV and film had its peak in the boob years.
But I do think. I mean, I do think in some ways too. That's not even. It was sort of like Universal. I think thought, hey, we're gonna if you're making what we call Bordello Blood, we're going to put that in the marketing. It is like the sexiness of this. And there are episodes of Tales from the Crypt that have nudity, and there are ones that don't. True. You know, I mean, it's not...
It wasn't in every episode
No,
thing.
I don't immediately associate Tales from the Crypt with being like a sexy show. And oftentimes when it did have nudity, being the weird horror show it would kind of gross body horror stuff, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Which this movie almost does in a couple places. I mean, it gets there a little bit.
The most disturbing parts of this movie have nothing to do with sexy time or even with vampires.
No. Let's. Oh, did I? Were there? Let me just see here if there are any taglines before we.
I'm sure they have lots of puns in them.
Puns are a big part of the Tales from the Crypt. No. I think just the Tales from the Crypt logo was the selling point here.
Well, I have a feeling that the studio knew immediately what they had on their hands.
Well,
which is a bad move.
The Dennis Miller thing was really, from the sound of it, Joel Silver specifically really wanted this guy. And of course, the big thing we should say as well is that Dennis Miller didn't want to do it because, number one, as he said, he's not an actor, and two, why would you want to be in Bordello of Blood? Like, I can't.
And he was at kind of the height of his show's fame. So he was already very busy.
Absolutely. He's already had his very successful run on SNL. He has a hit show on HBO. He's doing, side roles in movies that are a couple scenes. But for some reason, Joel Silver's like, this is the guy. He was very wrong about that. But I also like this idea that
he was incredibly wrong.
That Dennis Miller goes, well, I guess if you want to pay me like $1 million, I'll do it. And they're like,
yeah,
done.
He basically said, yeah, if you pay me $1 million, I'll do it.
And in order to do that, Joel Silver took money out of the production.
Jeez.
Because they only had, I think they said they had $250,000 line for the lead actor. And he goes, no. Because the studio said, we're not going to allot more money for Dennis Miller. And Joel Silver then said, all right, producers, you take $750,000 out of the budget somewhere. And the guy, they talk about this on the podcast. They go, they took that shit out of special effects.
Joel Silver, every time I hear stories about his career and the choices he made, all I can say is, in a weird way, I think the guy just got lucky over and over and over again. Force of personality, because every decision I've ever heard him associated with seems to be stupid and wrong creatively.
But he has produced some of the greatest, particularly action movies ever made.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But it is sort of like, yeah, man, But yeah, you just
think
start to go
failed upwards.
What you don't hear a lot of are, well, this was really in trouble until Joel saved it, though. I guess that's
exactly
what you don't. It is kind of like when you have when you roll the dice on a Shane Black. Well, that works because Shane Black's a fucking great writer. He's sort of like it is sort of thing where it's like, well, he made Lethal Weapon. It's like, would anyone not have made that script? Sort of that thing where you go like, that script was pretty awesome, man. And then Donner directs it. Like, yeah, there's the same thing with The Matrix. Is like, he did take a chance because other people didn't want that. And I guess the best thing I can say is
Warner
he saw
Brothers
the potential.
Has a long history of their guys.
Yeah.
Like, if you had a success for Warner Brothers, they want to keep you close. I mean, they still are in bed with Clint Eastwood.
They release every single film he makes and have for like the last 35 years.
His production company's on the lot. Yeah, I mean, it's their people. And so they're like, yeah, Joel Silver and Silver Pictures, that's on the lot too. Yeah. It's like, we will not let him go, even though he hasn't had one of those huge hits in a long time.
Donner was one of their guys. Actually.
Donner was one of their guys.
I said Affleck is a big guy for them now.
I will say that, strangely, that's loyalty, but it's also them going, it's just too lazy. It's too much work for us to go find the new people.
Well, sure.
We want to stick with these
and I do think
guys.
Somebody like Clint, one of the things he has an advantage of is he pretty much wants to make like character drama. So it's like,
yes,
well,
and he makes a movie every 5-6 years.
He never spends too much. He works pretty quickly. And every
now and then he gets critical acclaim.
He'll get critical acclaim, and he'll get good people because everybody wants to work with him, wants to say they worked with Clint. So
yeah, he's the somber, dramatic Woody Allen.
Yeah, but every once in a while, he'll get them some Oscars too, which is every once in a while there's $1 million baby in there.
Yeah, every now and then it's like, oh right, yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Well, you make enough movies, some of them have got to be good, right?
Yeah, that's right.
For the longest time, Snyder was their guy, but I think he's a big loss for them now. Snyder is over at Netflix exclusively, so.
Oh.
I don't mean you would think it's a loss, but I would say for them from a financial standpoint and sort of that loyalty thing.
Well, they are hanging on by a thread these days.
Yeah, they're a mess now. We'll see if even like Affleck's got to be going like, I wonder if anybody else would let me direct something.
Anyone else interested in the next Argo?
Yeah. Anybody else want to make a gritty thing on the streets of Boston? All right. we open up this movie just where you expect it to begin.
Oh my God, we started the movie. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Just where I expected this thing to begin, on an expedition in the jungles.
I know. Tierra del Fuego.
And immediately I'm going, oh shit, it's dollar store Alfred Molina from Raiders of the Lost Ark here. This guy.
No, they've purposely dressed both of them. They've
Yeah.
dressed the little person actor who's been in so many things, including the new season of Willow, because he was in the original Willow.
Yes.
He was an Ewok.
Phil Fondacaro is his name. Good actor.
And he's
terrible
fine, but they
part
dress
in
him like
this.
Indiana Jones, and they dress his guide exactly like Alfred Molina.
But this
in Raiders of
guy
the Lost
also
Ark.
just kind of looks like Alfred Molina.
Yep.
Like squint, and I'm just going like, oh, but then he opens his mouth. I'm going, ooh, no, this guy's not good.
But how good does he have to be? He's here for 2 seconds, going like, people say that this place is bad, and the people come here, and what are you looking for under the ground?
He's looking for treasure, but of course, this will not be the treasure they think is promised, which is gold and the like.
They think they're like gonna find some Aztec tomb or something,
and they do
find a tomb.
But he is looking specifically for the body contained inside, which is Lilith, the most evil woman to ever walk the earth, is what they say.
Lilith, the mother of all vampires. Lilith, who was Adam's first wife in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a mythic figure, and a real one. And when it ends up being Angie Everhart,
it's the idea of like, oh, this is a very 90s idea of a woman. Like,
well, also, okay, she's been dead for centuries, or she has been defeated for centuries. Her heart taken out of her corpse,
cut
and
into
divided
4 pieces.
into 4 pieces.
I always like that. I'm going like, you tell me if I just cut it in half, that's not enough, or 3.
No,
it's got to be 4. Now, if I cut into 5, though, we're back to the start. Then it loops back around.
But you know why it had to be 4 pieces? There are 4 chambers of the heart, and also, if you punch through a heart with a cross-shaped laser, it will cut it into 4 pieces.
I do like. I'm on her IMDb, Angie Everhart, and it says, trademark, usually plays gorgeous women who are very seductive.
Wow.
I to be fair, yes. I'm also now at a loss for anything else I've seen her act in. To be fair,
I'm willing to bet it's almost all Cinemax productions.
I'm looking. There's an Aerosmith video that adds up. Ooh,
okay.
Yeah. Who could forget another 9.5 weeks?
Oh yeah,
from the director
everyone asked for.
From the director of Embrace of the Vampire.
Oh really?
But thank God they got Rourke back. Yes, that's what we needed. Rourke is back, baby.
I bet it's a cameo.
He's got top billing.
I bet he walks by somebody, goes, "You know what you ought to do? Smear food all over her body. Gotta go."
And then a couple of sitcom appearances, and then a lot.
I bet she was on a Married with Children.
Missed a Married with Children, but how about a Third Rock from the Sun and a Caroline in the City?
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I liked Caroline in the City.
I liked Caroline. I was a big Third Rock from the Sun fan too.
I watched a couple episodes, and while it's a great cast, no, that never worked for me.
And of course, a Law and Order had to be had to have a Law and Order. You know, when you're on it forever and you need 1 million people in each episode, that's why everyone's on Law and Order.
Now, one thing I think is very interesting, and I haven't seen this in the case of many actors, but her hair has its own IMDb page because her hair is the biggest thing you'll ever see.
Well, and her hair was her actual they talk about she was the first redhead on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You know, she was sort of, her big calling card was she was the first like really bright red-haired supermodel to really like take off.
Well, great. But there's no reason that red hair has to be 8 foot by 8 foot in dimension.
Other than it's 1996, I guess.
Yeah, it is such the stamp of its time, along with Dennis Miller's entire outfit, those
There-
baggy
there is
Dockers he's
there
wearing,
is
and
a
that
there is a production still, like a
baggy
promotional
leather
photo of the
jacket.
two of them standing next to each other on IMDb that tells you everything about the aesthetics of this film. Just seeing Angie Everhart and Dennis Miller in costume, like posing for a promo photo, and you're like,
Oh,
"Yep,
Jesus.
that's the movie."
That's the 90s.
I will say Dennis Miller has always been the celebrity doppelganger of my father. My dad
Oh.
looks quite a bit like Dennis Miller.
I met your dad.
yeah, I
I
mean-
didn't really get that vibe.
Well, more at this time too, right? Like, because
Oh,
my
I
dad
see, I
has
see.
grayer hair now, but he had this beard, this kind of longish haircut that like dudes in their 30s in the 90s had. And he would have dressed like this at the time. So I've always thought, I remember when that show was on, it was like, oh, Dad's kind of Dennis Miller-esque. And my dad loved Dennis Miller too. That was another thing too. It was just sort of like, and the attitude a little bit. My dad also kind of has that snarky sense of humor.
Well, there
was,
you go.
But there was a distinct
so
turning
basically,
point.
you like this movie because Daddy fought vampires.
Dad's fighting vampires, man. But it was so yeah, agreed on that though. So yeah, he pulls out the. Here's the thing. So the heart is put back together. The little guy has sought the four parts of the heart all over the world for the last decade, he says.
Yes.
When it gets into the
And-
presence of the body, it reforms.
Yeah.
But then, this is where I'm just getting, like, the myth is a little complex here. Then there's also a key to control her?
Yeah. The thing is, the heart has to be there to bring her back. But
Yeah.
whoever has the key, which is this mystical device, which is also in Demon Knight,
Yeah.
making this a sequel?
Yeah.
Who knows? But this thing is it's like whoever has it, she has to obey, and they never explain why.
But I'm just going, like, from a screenwriting standpoint, wouldn't the simpler thing be to just be the heart? Like, the heart doesn't go back in her, you possess. Well, we've seen that in other things.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just going, like, it's one of those things where it's like there's a heart in pieces and there's another thing that's the key to
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
going,
there's
like,
a bunch of steps here.
Bordello. This movie's Bordello of blood. Simplify. I mean, like, this movie shouldn't be complex at all.
Nope. But it's basically decent skeleton effect of it fleshing back out and becoming a body
One
that
of my
is
favorite
her.
stories about this from both the making of and the podcast is that to save money, Joel Silver shot this movie in Canada with a non-union crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at a certain point, so they don't have the Tales from the Crypt people working on it. And at a certain point, they called the Tales from the Crypt makeup supervisor, and he's in the documentary. I think he's on the podcast too. And they go,
Yeah.
"Hey, can you tell these Canadian guys how to make fake blood?"
Make fake blood.
And the guy
Yeah.
was like, "Oh shit, they don't know how to make fake blood." He goes, "That's it. I'm coming up there. I don't care. You don't even have to pay me. This is unacceptable." And so a lot of the effects were reshot by the Tales from the Crypt makeup team after the fact to fix a lot of this stuff as much as they could. The guy is, I love how much the guy is still burned about the final makeup design for Angie Everhart's vampire, going like, it looks dumb because they'd already made it and they wouldn't give us money to make a new mold. And he goes, and she looks like witchy poo and I hate it.
Yeah.
I always love the effects and makeup guys. They are always the most like, they're the nerdiest dudes, right? They're so serious about this and going like, and they will tell you, oh, if only we had such good ideas, you know, like it's always those guys going.
Right.
Yeah. Because they take their job so seriously, and they're so
As
hyper
well they
focused
should. It's
on
an
what
art,
they do.
man.
It is an art, and because they're so hyper focused on that, you know, I always love when they talk to a Rick Baker or a Greg Nicotero or a Tom Savini. Or this guy. But I just love the idea of going, I'm getting on the next plane up there. Because if those are the kind of fucking idiots you're working with, I will not have Tales from the Crypt dragged through the mud for this thing. And for a lot of it does look pretty good. I do agree that the final vampire makeup, just in design, it's not bad prosthetics. It's just the design is a little witchy.
It's true. But there is a lot of sort of... It does vary from shot to shot, which actually does make it look. I mean, as famously, I had a real problem with the famously. Yeah, I get stopped on the street about this, but I had a big problem with the makeup effects and From Dusk Till Dawn
last week
because every design of every person is completely different. Some look okay, some look great, some look like absolute trash. Here, shot to shot, it is like, that was good. That's not good.
Yeah,
that was good. And this came hot on the heels of Death Becomes Her.
Oh my God, which I also just recently rewatched that. I love that movie.
Oh sure, no, that's great. But here they do it about 2 or 3 times the green screen effect of you're looking through a body. Because that was brand new tech, and they do it about 3 times in this.
Death Becomes Her still looks really good. I gotta say, watching it again, I was like, this holds up better than I expected for like early CG. You know, I mean, it's a little, but like here, it's much worse, and this is a couple years after that movie. So
yeah,
the fact that
but you can clearly see that at some point they're like going, dude, you have to use that. That looks awesome. We have to have that in our movie.
And Dennis Miller goes, hey, can I just go home, babe?
Yeah, you don't need me for this, right?
Well,
you can just have my stand-in. They
actually, remember, they did talk about that on the podcast, too, that it was a lot of Dennis always wanted to go home early, and that often meant he wasn't around for the effect shots because he's like, it's just taking too long, babe.
And another big problem was because he was improv a lot.
Oh, he did improv a lot, too, yeah.
That they were literally, whenever they had someone stand in for him, they couldn't match it because they couldn't remember what he said. So it led to continuity errors constantly where they're like, I don't know, he said something about the Addams family here. Just react to that.
Yeah, because they do talk about I think they talk about that on the podcast. That one of them had worked with Robin Williams. They go, he improvised a lot, but he always remembered what he
always
improvised.
Remembered. Well, and also, he was there.
He was there
when they did the reverse.
Lest
he
we
was
forget,
still there.
A Juilliard-trained actor as well. So always not just thinking of what's the funniest thing and say, but improvising in character. You know, like.
Yep.
It's always one of those things where you go like, I don't know. Dare I say it? Robin Williams maybe took filmmaking more seriously than Dennis Miller. I never would have guessed.
Hot take.
When is Dennis Miller going to do his 1 hour photo? That's all I want.
Oh,
hey, Brad, I'm a creepy serial killer. Cha cha cha.
That's never going to happen.
His guest turn on Criminal Minds. You'll never
unless
catch
it is
me.
a GOP backed project.
I will say that is a tough thing, and that was a big point when my father stopped being a fan, was when he made that hard turn into right
hard
wing.
Right turn.
Yeah, and I will say I Googled him to see like what's he up to. Nothing. He's doing casinos. Like that hard turn into right damaged his career because it really made him no longer a mainstream comic.
No,
because you just can't. You can't with that. If
you can't with
and
that.
He's one of those guys who's like, well, I don't know. Trump says some things, but he does a couple things. He's one of those guys where it's like, I'm not saying I agree with it all, but he's got a couple things.
Good. He has some moderate.
He's one of those guys who goes, I like that he pisses people off, babe.
Oh, God.
Like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. It saddens me.
No,
so anyway,
let's just live in the 90s when Dennis Miller was funny.
Lilith has been resurrected, and of course, the little archaeologist guy has the key, and he feeds her the guides, and now she's back to being.
And she gets the last guy with her super tongue.
Oh God, yeah! This is a brand new thing in vampire mythos. Apparently, if you're Lilith, the mother of all vampires, you have a really long tongue.
She's like Toad from the X-Men, man. It's the same
like Toad
thing.
From the X-Men. And you know what they say about when lightning hits a frog. Sorry, what was that quote from X-Men?
You know what happens to a toad when struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Yeah, God, that is.
Now
I
will say,
that is
and
horrible
this is,
writing.
Well, I do kind of get what, because Joss Whedon wrote that line, and he talked about, and once again,
is he saying it was the fault of the delivery?
He is, because he said it was meant to be. Do you know what happens to a toad when struck by lightning? He gets hit, and then she's walking away, and is supposed to like toss it off, like same thing that happens to everything else. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And you're going like, okay, I'm not saying that's a great line, But that would be less embarrassing than Halle Berry just going. And I'm not even put that on Halle Berry, who I think is a good actress. I'm gonna put that on Bryan Singer because and that's also just the less said about Joss Whedon or Bryan Singer, the better these days. So let's get back to this movie that everyone loves.
But the thing I love is Lilith is this ancient creature.
Yeah,
and she's immediately okay with whatever. She's okay with 20th century. She's okay with what, and she sounds like Angie Everhart. She has no accent. She speaks English automatically. You're like, well, this all works. Great.
You know what I would with. She's Angie Everhart. She doesn't have an accent. I'm going like, yeah, that would be too much for her. What I would have put more focus on Angie Everhart delivering, like lines like a person would be nice. Naturalistic delivery. I don't care if she.
Nope.
For the love of God, let's not confuse her with with accent.
You're asking for the moon.
And I do like they talked about this on the podcast. I don't want to keep saying that, but it is the thing about because she was with Stallone. They talked about he was directing her between days, and so they would come and go like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Well, Sly told me I shouldn't." You're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" The director of this movie, I would be going insane. Even I love Sly Stallone, but it's like, dude. I'm directing the movie. So here's what I think you're gonna want to do as this vampire lady. You're gonna want to, like Jesus Christ, man.
Oh dear God,
you just can't help it, man. And then he's like, "You stop sending it." Oh, that was the other thing because I thought you were gonna bring up that because Dennis Miller was still shooting his show, they had to work long weekends on this movie.
Yeah,
which pissed everyone off.
Yeah,
because he had to fly back to L.A., babe, so he could make some more topical humor. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's not even him being shitty in that case, because it is kind of like, well, I'm doing this show, so you're gonna have to accommodate that. And they're like, yeah, sure.
Nope.
So many reasons. Although I will say, the guys make it clear on the podcast and on the documentary that who they wanted was Daniel Baldwin. That would not have been better.
No,
I think actually, you know what? In that scenario, I think I actually prefer Miller.
And I also saw in the trivia that for Lilith, they were thinking of Robin Givens or Marla Maples.
Oh, Christ. I mean, that character was never going to be played by anyone good was the answer.
Yep.
They were only
sound
looking
like
at
the kind of casting that would have worked for the TV show.
Yeah.
Because that's TV show.
There would have been she only would have been in a couple of scenes, and it would have been fine. This thing would have been over. And Daniel Baldwin, too, actually would have been on the TV. All of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Feldman even. I think Feldman actually had done at least an episode of Tales from the Crypt at this point. Because everyone on the documentary is just like, well, we knew Corey. Corey was calling us Daniel Baldwin. We're going to talk about Daniel Baldwin in a vampire movie in a couple weeks, and he's awful in it.
I can't wait.
He is terrible in vampires.
The 90s have been a good run for us.
Oh, man.
I'd say we've seen the finest of these films.
We've seen a couple.
Finally.
I will say, I think we've seen some high highs, but some of the lowest of lows.
Yeah, I think we are entering, and this gets the one pass of being purposefully. This is a campy movie on purpose.
That's why I think.
But we are entering the 90s thing, thanks to things like Scream and whatever.
Yeah,
it is the very self-aware era.
Yes,
they're like, you've seen a million vampire movies, a million werewolf movies, but we're changing it up. These guys are not what you expect, and you're like, oh, so they're just bad.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah. The success of Scream is a classic example of going like, no, you guys, that's not replicatable like that. Like it's just sort of like that. Because I love the Scream movies, but those are unique tones unto themselves.
Word.
All right, so we cut back and we find out this whole story is being told between a mummy and the crypt keeper in some kind of crypt saloon
bar. Yeah, it's kind of like a bar ish, but it is a crypt as well, and it's full of extras dressed as creepy zombies and whatever. But
I do think one of the best performances in this movie is William Sadler as this mummy. I love
William Sadler is great always. He's being a mummy that is talking like sort of a classic Hollywood actor. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, when I went up for the part, I was doing it in a certain way, but they decided to go with him, and he's such a hack. So it's like, I get it. It's funny.
When they cut away from this into the actual movie, I went, no, go back.
Yep.
Go back to Sadler and the Crypt, because this is the same energy he brings to his Bill and Ted Grim Reaper,
exactly.
which I also love.
Yeah.
And he's so funny in that. And he's just always Sadler, I feel like, is underappreciated in if you look at his IMDb, you're like, God, he's done everything. He can kind of play anything. Yeah. Because you go like, this is the same guy who's the like cold as ice military bad guy in Die Hard 2.
Yep.
You know, you just like, my God, I just think he's immensely talented. And we're going to talk about him someday when that new Salem's Lot comes out, because he's our new vampire in that.
Oh.
He's playing Barlow.
I'll take it.
I think that's going to be, I can't wait to see what he does with that.
I am all right with that.
Yeah.
But I will say, this is just that framing device. What I thought was hilarious is that I looked at IMDb and before I watched it, and I'm just reading down, and then I see someone listed as Bride of Frankenstein. I'm like, what? And then I realized, for some reason, one of the extras behind them that has no lines, and you only see her over the shoulder, she gets a full-on credit.
Yes,
as
she
Bride
does.
of Frankenstein, just because she's in the Bride of Frankenstein makeup. You're like, what is that about?
It's the only feature film credit she has on IMDb.
So I'm very confused about why that is.
I have no idea either, but she made the credits, man. So of course now the Crypt Keeper throws us to our story.
Yeah, basically this is a storytelling competition framed where it's like, well, if your story isn't as spooky as mine, I will chop your hand off or something. And he's like, I'll take that bet.
Truly,
and here's a little thing called Bordello of Blood.
Now, I gotta say, John Kassir, one of the sweetest gigs in the history of acting, right? That just doing the voice of the Crypt Keeper forever. He made a fortune off of this.
And no one ever told him to pull it back.
Nope, not once, not ever. And I will say, I did see he is on Cameo, and he will send you messages as the Crypt Keeper. So,
again, sweet job.
Yeah, and I'm sure he makes a ton from that, because there are people who are going like, I want to send my friend Bill a birthday message from the Crypt Keeper, and all he has to do is come up with like 2 bad puns and go, happy birthday, Bill, hope it's a scream or whatever, like. It writes itself, man.
It does.
Yeah, he's been dining out on Crypt Keeper forever.
No doubt about it.
He does other voice stuff, but who cares? Like, do you remember the Crypt Keeper had his own animated series in the 90s?
No, I'm not surprised though. Everybody did.
He had his own animated series, and he had a game show, which I had only recently discovered and then watched the first episode of on YouTube, which was. It was basically, you remember Legends of the Hidden Temple, that kids Nickelodeon show?
Again, that is, I'm familiar.
You're vaguely familiar with the idea, though, that it's sort of like an adventure maze game. Well, the Crypt Keeper game was horror Legends of the Hidden Temple. It's Escape from the Crypt Keeper's mansion or whatever. And so you've got the puppet hosting going, you'll never get out of this room.
Everybody had a kid's show.
It is.
Rambo did. RoboCop did.
Yeah. I always hated that Rambo thing.
Chuck Norris did.
Chuck Norris Karate
Toxic
Commandos.
Avenger did.
Yeah, Mr. T, he had one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we start our story, and we start on adult siblings, Erica Laniak and Corey Feldman. They seem related, don't they?
In no universe. But regardless, they are supposedly brother and sister, and she is a nice conservative Christian lady, and her younger brother is he's trouble, man.
How old is he supposed to be? Because he's got to be of legal drinking age, but at the same time acts like he's 15.
It is weird the way they're and the way they approach, like, dude, we're so gonna get laid tonight. You're like, that if you're 15 or 16, okay, but you're clearly 25.
And you've got her knocking on his room going, turn that music down. No way, sis.
I like my metal.
Generic metal, man. My favorite music.
And he's dressed. Luckily here, he is not dressed in his normal Michael Jackson drag.
No, because once again, his career's on the skids now. He's got to he's got to he's got to try a little bit harder in this one. I feel like is the thing.
Yes.
So I do like that he's like, oh no, I'm gonna like have a look as this character, not just be weird Michael Jackson. God, it's so
the weird thing for me is the focus on this movie has about all of his friends have nose piercings.
Yeah.
And I guess 96 was the golden age of nose piercings.
Yeah. They've got nose piercing, and then he's got like his ear lobe, the upper part of his ear is pierced like 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like, whoa, he's a bad boy.
And he's like, don't wait up for me, sis. I'm going to go out to the bar with my friends.
But he's just like, it's so, she's his sister, not his mother. Fuck, this scene's so weird. And also, once again, okay, Erica Lane. Now, this would have made more sense if they had the subplot, but I'm going, conservative Christian woman with giant breast implants. That doesn't work. But if you add the porn star thing, then it does work.
We should say that the reason that she never gets found out in the original draft, the gag was she had been a porn star, but she had been an overweight.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should say big but beautiful woman, whatever the thing is, porn star, and she had lost a lot of weight, so she only looks familiar to him, and that her porn star name was what, Chubby,
I believe,
or other,
Chubby Deluxe, I think it was
something like that.
Yeah.
So that would have been a humor beat, not necessarily like a sexy thing. It was like, yeah, she was a large figured porn star, and now she's lost weight and found the Lord.
Once again, adding to, and I'm not here to body shame anybody, but adding to the kind of like, at least with the prosthetics of her being overweight, the kind of weird Tales from the Crypt nudity, you know I'm talking about, like, sort of, it's all part of this just like bizarre gonzo vision that would have been, but still, the idea that she was so locked into I'm a serious actress that even, because I don't even know that the nude scene would have required her to show any of her real body. You know what I mean? If it was this prosthetic thing.
Well, we don't even know what they had in mind. And
I think
I doubt more than a topless scene or something would have been what you'd get. But it's kind of,
this was no
like,
Under Siege.
That's a funny-ish idea.
It's funny-ish.
But her deciding not to do that means, what was the point even? The whole?
One of the things though with the funny-ish is, and one of the reasons I have such respect and affection for these guys who made this movie, is they go, look, even though it was called Bordello of Blood, we did as much punch-up as we could, but we were fucking doomed, man. Like, it was never going to be good. They cut us off at the knees before we even started. So and they did the best they could. And you can see there are parts of the problem is you don't have any. I do think with a better cast, this movie would have been more entertaining, at least. You know what I mean? Like, because it still would have been campy, but it's like, oh, if you had a leading man, not Daniel Baldwin by any stretch of the imagination, but if you had some, I'm trying to think who would have been good. I'll come up with something. You know who actually would have been better? I don't think he would have been perfect, but he would have been slightly better as Spade.
Slightly better, yeah.
Slightly better. I mean, just going in, it was gonna probably be one of these SNL guys. Spade's a better actor than Dennis Miller, though.
And I will say that there could have been a lot more comedy about how tiny he is.
Yeah, it is kind of like, that's the detective.
That's the guy who's going to save us from vampires.
It's not like Dennis Miller's like a normal-sized guy. It's not like Dennis Miller reads as an action hero by any stretch of the imagination.
And Lilith does get in a line or something about, how ridiculously she calls him little man. And it's like, okay.
You're like, well, he's like 5'10". I don't know how little he is, but Angie Everhart is huge.
And she's huge, and her hair, again, adds another 3 feet. Yeah, because
she's already like 6 feet now. She's like 6'4" with the hair. Makes me think of Fletch. Actually, Chevy also at one time would have been right for this too.
But talking about a guy that, again, you don't ever read him as being a character with heart. That's unfair. Actually, he did a couple of.
Well, I think Clark Griswold has heart. I think that's another thing that saves that character, though. You know what I mean?
Clark Griswold has heart.
Well, no,
but
I think
made me laugh.
That's the title of my book of film essays. Is Clark Griswold has heart. The Desert Inn has heart. That's all.
That's what I was thinking too. The Desert Inn has heart. I think you're very funny.
Yeah.
I like your ideas,
Yeah.
Santa Claus and all that.
One of my favorite scenes in any movie. That movie.
That scene should be enshrined.
That scene should be enshrined. It's the best Gary Marshall ever was in anything.
And there's you're dressed as Santa, and you're giving us back our nest egg.
But then other people would expect them. No, you make it very clear. It's a one-time thing.
God damn it!
We're just talking about
for the uninitiated. Please go and right now and watch Lost in America.
If you haven't seen Lost in America, I actually envy your being able to see it for the first time because it is one of the funniest movies ever. I love that movie so much.
Okay.
All right. So she's going, and the big thing, these guys are such bad boys. They're not just playing darts. They're having one of their friends stand in front of the dartboard.
And they are making bets on whether he will be able to throw a dart into the guy's ball sack or miss it.
I gotta say,
and
we're like 10 minutes into the movie at this point. I'm going like, oh, it's this kind of movie. Got it.
Yep. Yep.
They're not burying the lead on what kind of film we're watching here.
No, they want you to know. And so the thing is that the guy who's standing in front of the dartboard's like, no, man, I'll give you even more money if you don't throw a dart into my ball sack.
Yeah.
Then he says, okay, I'll take it. But he still throws the dart into the guy's balls. And he goes, why'd you do that? He goes, because I wanted to. It's funny.
It was funny, man.
And you know what I think is this is where the movie lost me. And we're only, 8 minutes into it?
Something like that,
it lost me because if you had a dart go through your testicles,
that's a hospital trip.
Yeah, it's not immediate like, ow, and then like, yeah, dude, let's definitely go to a brothel and get fucked tonight.
Yeah, because I've just had a dart go through my testicles. I definitely want to use my dick tonight. That's gonna happen.
And you've got like the bartender lady going like, you guys got to cut that out. But also like, you crazy cut.
Yeah, it is also like, get the fuck out too if you're running this
and also clean up that blood.
Yeah,
the guy would be bleeding.
He'd be bleeding
out the crotch of his jeans.
That testicle's gone too, right?
It's gone. But by all means, you should go to a brothel in a funeral home.
Well, because it comes up. So one guy goes like, what we should do tonight is get laid. Yeah, let's get laid.
Yeah, I do like the way you said this comes up as if it's like this is a thought that has just occurred.
Let's see what's next. We've already committed horrible testicle trauma against our friend.
Let's have sex with a woman tonight.
By the way, a bunch of guys sitting around a table going, let's get laid tonight. We'll have no sex that night. That's for sure. And actually, to be fair, realistic here, they have to go pay for it. And they will pay for it.
Oh, nicely done.
See? They'll be paying. Why couldn't the Crib Keeper just pop up throughout the movie? That would have been more fun. They'll be paying.
Have you ever seen Road to Utopia?
Yeah, of course I have. Who are you talking to?
I've
got the whole box set of the Road movies.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
But the way they have Robert Benchley, who starts it and then it narrates it kind of, but he keeps popping in, like they'll freeze it and he'll pop into the screen to make fun of what's happening. That's what they should have done.
Honestly, they should have, because the Crypt Keeper is one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah.
There's this just random crazy guy who goes, you guys want to have the best ass in town?
Okay, all right.
I like when something comes up on the show. It's like, hold on, we got to stop.
Well, I just don't want to gloss over.
No, nor should
this character is Jenkins, and he is sort of, I guess, a thrall to the vampires, but he's also in the process of becoming one. Yeah, and he's a biker guy. Mm-hmm. In a movie that is just bad, just really bad with bad performances. Yeah. I hated everything about what this performer did.
Agreed. I
hated his performance.
There are many terrible performances, but somehow this guy managed to give the worst.
And I know he's trying to be like, I'm crazy. You can't try. I'm off my.
Oh wait, is that what he was going for? It was so subtle. His eyes are literally bulging out of his skull in every scene. You guys want to get laid?
I know this is a cartoon movie based on a comic book, but
but
literally
still,
pull it back. Literally pull it back,
yeah,
dude.
You're out acting the Crypt Keeper, man. Like you're. It's a bit much, isn't it?
He looks like he is. I mean, listen. I think David Arquette would have been a more subtle choice, and he goes big.
I actually like David Arquette, though.
No, I do too. But I mean,
but yes, agreed. It's a specific.
He's done like the wide-eyed.
Yes,
I'm
David
kind of
Arquette
off. I'm
is
a little bit
specific
nuts.
ingredient you want to use very knowingly and stuff.
Oh,
But when it works,
this.
yeah, this guy is terrible. By the way,
But he just is his sole excuse is to be the guy who goes out to the bar to entice horny dudes to go back to the Bordello of Blood.
Mm-hmm. By the way, this guy, one of the rapists and the accused.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And that performance, if I recall, was just as subtle. No. But of course, the thing in that movie is you see.
Weirdly, that's not a movie I revisit often.
No, that's what I'm saying, as I recall. But also, that movie, as I recall, shows the same thing through different remembrances. So the performances do ebb and flow in how big they are, right? Because you see, it's got that Rashomon sort of thing.
Yes.
You're not putting on the accused on the regular?
No, it's not one of my normal holiday
Weirdly
go-tos.
not. I do agree
Let's
with
see, Miracle on 34th Street, The Accused.
That's a Christmas movie, right?
Happiness. What else do I want?
Oh, Happiness, Christmas classic.
Good Lord.
Nobody loves Christmas more than Dylan Baker in that. Dylan Baker. Yeah. Yikes. Great movie that I have seen once.
Great movie and an amazing performance, and I will never watch
One
it
of
again.
the most fearless performances by a Hollywood actor, though, I do think. Dylan Baker.
Hat off.
God damn, he was in and Hoffman too. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Anyway. Weird movie. Yeah, I don't think I've watched any Todd Solondz movie more than once, to be fair.
I've watched Welcome to the Dollhouse 2 or 3 times.
I just put it on for a laugh.
Storytelling I watched once.
Yeah.
No, okay.
I haven't kept up with
moving on.
his recent output either. So, yeah. So they go to this. It's a funeral home. It's a code. You're there for the something. I can't remember what it is. The something funeral.
The Campbell wake.
Yeah, something like that. And
No, Cunningham.
Cunningham.
wake.
That's it. Yeah. It's the funeral of Chuck Cunningham. We finally know what happened to him.
He choked on a basketball.
And this guy at the front door is doing a very like hammer. I mean, we know this guy, Aubrey Morris.
Now, I will say
he's doing a very
he's big,
Yeah.
but he's in the right lane.
He is. He gets what kind of movie we're making here.
I like it. I mean, I don't like the character, but I like his work here. It's
of
good.
course, he was on Deadwood. Yes. I mean, he's been in a million.
Oh,
He's in the original Wicker Man, which is great.
wow.
I bring up you know what I hate about the culture today and how people don't respect old stuff. I bring up the Wicker Man and how great it is. People go like, "We mean that movie sucks" with Nicolas Cage. I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Oh my God, come on! If you only know the Wicker Man through that Nicolas Cage movie, watch the original. It's such a great horror movie, man. Oh, Edward Woodward, man, Christopher Lee.
It's great.
Get educated, people, is what I'm saying.
It's time to keep your appointment.
Oh,
Wicker Man.
so good. I mean, that's the thing where you're going like, how could you remake that? And particularly, how could you think you could ever match a Christopher Lee in terms of unsettling creepiness?
Especially Christopher Lee, who sings.
Well, that's even better.
And sings like an angel.
This guy also in Clockwork Orange. I just love the idea of having Clockwork Orange, Wicker Man, Bordello of Blood.
Yep.
But that's a lot of these British guys have that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well, they're good character actors.
Yeah, and they
they're
just-
like,
they work a lot.
I'll do it.
this guy worked until he died in 2015.
Good.
At 89. His last appearance was an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I find funny.
That's great.
He's going like, I really enjoy all the antics with Danny DeVito.
That show is a real kick in the pants.
So they go in here, and this whole thing is like, they're like, well, hey, I don't know about this, man. This is a funeral home, and they want us all to get in a coffin. There's a total no homo joke here too, with them getting in the coffin. Wow.
See, instead of going down one at a time, the way it's set up is you get in this coffin. The coffin is rolled into, and I'm sorry, this doesn't happen in funeral homes, by the way. Crematoriums are not right there in the funeral home.
No, it's not like, well, the service is over. Into the fire you go.
I know. So, but the way this is set up is the conveyor belt takes the coffin into the flames, but it doesn't burn the coffin because it's not there long enough. It shoots it down a little track into the basement, and when you get out of the coffin, it's a big orgy scene in a swanky penthouse looking thing with a fog machine.
Another moment in this movie I went, well, that's needlessly complex when it goes through this whole thing, the ramp, and I'm going like, well, this is money that didn't need to be spent.
For the funny, Corey Feldman's character and his buddy, who had the dart through the testicle, are
but don't worry, he's still able to get it up for these ladies, man.
They're loaded into the coffin together, so it is like a dude. Don't even. You're looking right at. Get your butt away. Yeah, it's great.
Hilarious. I was laughing, man. I fell out of my chair laughing at this.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. The doctors say I'll be fine in a few days. I shall be able to walk again. Another Bordello of blood incident.
He goes, was it the coffin scene? Yeah, I get this a lot.
Yeah.
I get this a lot.
They really need to put some kind of warning on that movie. I did also, as I was watching this, and Tales from the Crypt did have a campy, humorous vibe, but all I can think about is if I was a big fan of the show going to see this at the theater, like the dart to the balls, now this, I'd be going, what the fuck? This isn't like the show at all.
Yeah.
This isn't fun.
It's just dumb.
It is. It's very dumb for a show that was campy, but not dumb.
And it actually has at least a handful of actual classic episodes.
Oh my God. Some of those are absolutely great. I said, I'm really having a lot of fun. Just go on. They're all on. Somebody is, because they're not available streaming anywhere due to a weird rights issue. So, but once again, it seems like because of the weird rights issue, nobody's taking it down. Somebody has uploaded them to YouTube in full HD, so they look good. And I
might have to do that because it has been a long time.
Same thing here.
And it might take the bad taste of this movie out of my mouth.
Yeah, I will say it was kind of nice to then put on a classic Tales from the Crypt after this. Or even, as we talk about, even Demon Knight, which is like just an okay movie, looks so much better.
No, it's no classic.
But compared to this thing?
Yeah.
So they're down there, and it's Boob City, sir.
Boob City.
I mean, literally the first thing we see is a POV shot from Corey Feldman looking at a pair of boobs. We don't even see the woman's face. It's just boobs the whole frame. And
he's like, oh, right, this is great.
This is it, man. Did you know I was the voice of Donatello?
There was a trivia thing too. What was it? Is the guy he's with, I think his buddy, was in the suit of one of the turtles in the second turtle movie.
Yeah,
he didn't do the voice.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze, sir.
Yeah, and of course Feldman had been the voice of Donatello. So 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles end up in a bordello under a funeral home.
Matt
it's crazy.
Hill performed as Raphael. In actually, yes, and yes, in the second movie, and of course Corey Feldman was the voice of Donatello.
Yes.
The only Josh Pais, the only actor to play both the character of Raphael and the voice in the first movie.
Oh.
Which I always thought was sort of one of those things where it's like, well, why does he get this thing? Well, he's really good.
Actually, it's probably more like that poor bastard, because the other guys just had to go in a booth one day, and he's like, I am losing 15 pounds a day.
Oh, I'm talking about the guys in the other suit. The guys in the suits were going, why does he get to also do the voice? Why did they get to hear him?
Yes, they were the jealous ones. Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm saying.
It wasn't the voice actors going, why don't I get to be
Hey, man, couldn't I have played the part of Donatello? I have a
Dude, I'm cool being in a big rubber suit.
Here's a Corey Feldman comment from the documentary, The Surprise Note. He goes, the funny thing is I actually dated a few of the girls from the Bordello scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that adds up.
Yeah. Wow. All of those Playboy and Penthouse models.
I feel like there
amazing.
was a period of time when Corey Feldman always had like a Playboy Playmate on his arm.
That was again when you were talking about his big music, live music thing.
Oh, Feldman's Angels?
Yes, he just had lingerie models dancing languidly behind him with angel wings on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
They're Feldman's angels, man. I'm out of my mind. The subtext of everything he said in that was like, I'm out of my mind, man.
The name of this next song is called Cry for Help.
If I remember, the single was Go For It, and it was just like, because you gotta go for it.
Oh,
and it is just like, we all remember Michael Jackson. It's so weird to me that this guy was a victim of sexual abuse, modeled himself after an abuser. That is really fucked up, man.
yeah.
Wow. All right.
Someday we'll know maybe more of the story.
I hope so.
But I don't think he's going to tell us the full truth.
No, man, because I don't remember it.
I have a feeling that's kind of true.
He has been working on a documentary, he said, about child molestation in Hollywood, but he's been working on that for like 10 years now, so we'll see if that ever.
Yeah.
Still trying to
I
get
wish
some money
him
together.
Godspeed.
Yeah.
And I hope he is sober and straight. Anyway.
I do too. So yeah, she, they're in here and they're like, oh my God, man, it's a smorgasbord of ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And they each go off with a different girl to a private room.
Yep.
And
here's one of the big logical fallacies of this movie.
Yes.
Now, in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this, and I had this thought because we had that conversation on From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes. And From Dusk Till Dawn, you know, they probably pick out a victim a night or something like that, because you can't go wide. You can't go too broad scale with your massacring, or else you'll get found out.
That
pretty
situation
quickly.
is kind of created by the Gecko brothers in that movie. Like, they escalate things, which forces the vampires to go wide.
Now this is a not a huge town. This is not happening in Los Angeles or something like that. And these are all locals essentially, and I'm sure some bikers. But it looks like at least 20 men are killed every single night.
I have that, and I don't know if I would have thought that if we hadn't literally just talked about that. But it is sort of going like, man, and the way the police and everyone is dismissing this throughout the movie, and you're going like, well, I don't know, there are a lot of people missing.
Another thing I absolutely hated. There are plenty of ways, and we've seen many a film and television show that find interesting, fun actors or ways to do dumb police.
Yeah.
But this was just,
ugh.
I mean, when we do meet the chief of police, he's literally a fucking block of wood idiot who dribbles food down the front. That whole thing with the eating the chili out of the can, and it's all down the front.
Hey, tell me, babe, did you manage to get any of that stew in your fucking mouth?
It's just, I mean, that's just dumb.
I mean, like, Dennis, it is like, I get Dennis Miller needs to be superior and smarter than this guy, but that doesn't mean you have to make him, like, mentally damaged in some way.
I know. And we also, of course, need him to be a typical blind lawman who can't accept something outside of what he thinks of as reality.
Dealing with a fucking vampire here, babe.
Yeah, that all makes sense, but he doesn't need to be this like, I don't. You keep back talking me, and you see what you get. He actually isn't Southern, but he just sounds like he seems like he would be.
He is not far off from J-Dub Peppa. Let's be honest.
He's really
on
not.
whose side, Dennis Miller? Fun fact: that guy not Southern, believe it or not.
What? Because it is a perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm from that place.
Yeah,
it's dead.
You would know.
on.
You met a few J-Dub Peppers in your time.
Now, some of them are my family. Anyway, moving on.
Secret agent. So a character Tom Mankiewicz loved so much, he also put him in the Superman universe. So,
oh god,
good lord. So yeah, there is this his idiot friend here is like, oh man, she's taking her clothes off. And then she slices his chest open. He's like, hey, that ain't cool.
Yeah, he ends up. The friend ends up with. This is kind of a weird, setup where they both end up with prostitutes. Sorry, sex workers, vampire sex workers,
ladies of the night, if you will,
which I do believe was the subtitle of the film. Vampire sex workers. VSWs.
That's actually the remake of this we're working on right now.
Yeah,
we've been
exactly.
commissioned by Universal to get it right this time. I think was their
All
note
right.
to us.
One of the lines that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Dennis Miller line, and it's not that great, but his delivery was good.
Yeah.
And she goes, "What are you saying? Where did?" It's like, it was a whorehouse, a house full of whores. And I was like, that's not a great line.
Because Dennis
he just
Miller
delivered it
is
well.
funny. That's the thing. All the stuff I laugh at has nothing to do with the movie. It's just, well, that's a funny turn of phrase and delivery from a good comedian.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you expect halfway through the movie
take
for him
those
to,
laughs where you can get them.
halfway through the movie, I just expect him to go over to a brick wall and pull out a mic and go, so the thing about these vampires, babe, here's the thing, man. Bram Stoker'd be sporting a Woody in here, you know?
It's tough getting a steak through all that silicone, babe.
I actually am shocked they didn't do that joke that is in Scary Movie where you stab somebody and the breast implant comes out. That does feel like... This movie doesn't do stakings, though.
That is true. This leans completely on holy water.
Yeah.
And lasers.
Yeah. Oh, my God. We'll get to that. That's not how lasers work.
No, it's not. And even audiences in 1996, I believe, were aware of that.
Sir, that is not how lasers work.
I have been to Laser Floyd 8 times and never once have had any kind of burns or loss of limb.
I said good day, Bordello of blood.
I say good day.
Paul F. Tompkins is playing. This is Paul F. Tompkins in the theater, right? I said good day.
Oh, man. Isn't he a guy you'd love to hang out with?
Jesus Christ, so much, man. Most of those, him and Mantzoukas and Daly and Lauren Lapkus and all those people just seem like the coolest people in the world to me.
Yep.
And they're all like comic nerds, too, which really makes it like, just talking X-Men with that crowd. Except for Lapkus, who wouldn't know what anyone was talking about. But that's part of her fun.
She's great on her own.
So then Lilith comes in and rips this guy's heart out.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about the setup here is weird. She's the alpha, clearly. She's the leader. She's Lilith.
She's queen of the vampires.
So basically, the prostitutes...
Queen of the damned? No, we'll get to that movie.
The prostitutes basically are there to set it up. They get the guy all hot and bothered. And they do a little bit of nibbling on them. They're like, "Oh, dude, stop biting. That hurts."
Oh, I do I love the first guy when he gets cut and she's licking the blood. He's like, hey, man. Oh, it's not Feldman. So it's, hey, man, that's not cool. And she's like, no, I just want to drink all of your fluids. And he goes, all right, then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care that I'm bleeding.
Yeah. Here, let me piss into this cup then while I'm at it. Let me just get everything out of here, you know? Like, Jesus Christ, man.
But Lilith walks in and basically just takes over. She's like, yeah, you get 2 girls for the price of 1.
And this is the guy who gets the tongue down the throat, too.
Oh, yeah. She kisses him, and he's like, yeah, I really struck it big. But then her tongue goes all the way down his throat, which they do with makeup.
Yeah,
and
it's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's
and then she rips his heart out. Yeah, and she does that a lot. Actually,
she seems to like eating hearts over drinking blood, which is new for vampires.
Yeah, and she kind of squeezes some blood out for the other one. Like, okay, you get a taste.
Yeah. So all these women are full vampires, are they?
I guess.
Yeah.
Though, and it apparently happens pretty quick because we, over the course of a day, we have a girl auditioning to be one of the prostitutes who then the next night is fully a vampire.
I guess they are full vampires because when Miller lights them all up with his holy water squirt gun, he and Reverend Chris Sarandon, who I did not expect to be in the final battle of this thing. Like, shit, no. Sarandon's in this movie more than... I thought Sarandon was going to get knocked off quick. I'm glad he's here just because I love the guy. However...
Talk about a weird story turn where he's responsible for Lilith's
the
revival.
Reverend's crooked, but this
and
makes
then he's
no
a hero.
sense. No, and it makes no sense because he's legitimate about the religious stuff, but he's working with like an agent of Satan basically to kill sinners.
He does like the money. I mean, so he's not totally legit.
But he is having sinners killed, which speaks to some
right.
sort of religious
he decided
morality.
He would use this demonic creature Lilith to kill bad people.
But yeah, that's what I mean. So there's still a morality to it, but he's willing to overlook the vampire. It's so weird, man. And then then he makes a hard hero turn for no reason. And once again, I love Chris Sarandon, but I will say having both Chris Sarandon and Corey Feldman in this are like, don't bring in guys from other better vampire movies.
Yeah, you're not making yourself look any
no, because I'm like Chris Sarandon's in one of my favorite vampire movies. So
and I swear to God, the second that Roddy McDowell showed up in this, I was like, come on, man.
Are you kidding me? Kiefer Sutherland, why are you here? No. Oh, and here comes Adrian Pasdar. Yep, they're all in it.
Adrian Pasdar would have been great.
Adrian Pasdar would have been so. Can we get Adrian?
Let him be the hero.
Let him, because that guy, number one, that guy's made to be a hero. Just look at that jaw, man.
That jaw scares me.
I mean, look, he was literally a hero on Heroes. So, he could fly.
Yeah, but didn't he have that evil turn?
Not in the first season.
Oh. I barely remember the plot lines.
I know
that was a show that started great and went down the tubes instantly.
That has got to be one of the fastest turns to complete garbage of any TV show
Yep.
ever. I was all in on that first season, and then I was like, uh-oh.
Me too.
Uh-oh.
I loved Hero on Heroes.
Yeah, you had. I was like, you had nothing past this. Got it. Okay, great.
Yeah,
understood.
You thought it out to the third episode.
Yeah,
perfect.
So Erica Laniak now is in the police station going, hey, my brother never came home. And they're like, mwah, mwah, mwah.
That's good impression.
Basically what the cops are like. But Dennis Miller is just hanging out in this police station looking
I guess
for
as
work?
a low-rent PI, what he
Unlicensed,
does is hang out.
They make that key. This man doesn't even have a detective's license.
Yep.
Therefore, everything he says, invalid.
Yes, indeed.
And the reason that I remember, number one, Rafe Gutman's a terrible name, and get ready to hear it 200 times.
And purposely mispronounced by the preacher character.
Yeah, Mr. Gutman. Once
and
again,
it's like, that's
I
kind of
think
funny.
Similar to the door guy at the brothel, Sarandon knows what lane we're in. The character is very poorly written, and one of the things I did take heart in, because I've always been a huge fan of his on the podcast. Across the board, they were all like, "Oh, that guy was a pleasure to work with."
Yeah,
because he's a pro.
Yeah, I like hearing that too.
He's good. Just like I do have a.
If you don't like Chris Sarandon, I don't trust you.
I do have a Fright Night poster signed by the man. So. Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Everybody getting those Nightmare Before Christmas posters signed. I walk up with my Fright Night.
Well, you should have had both. Sorry.
Nightmare Before Christmas is great too. And then there's the Princess Bride camp too.
Of course there is.
It's interesting. He's not a guy whose like name comes up a lot, but once again, then you look at his filmography, you go like, holy shit, he's in like a lot of iconic stuff.
Literal classics.
Yeah. And apparently, I did not know this, he did the voice of Dracula on the most recent Ninja Turtles animated series.
Please stop right now with everything you're saying.
Because now I'm going like, I must track these episodes down.
Yeah.
Number one, I want to see the Turtles fight Dracula, but also, somebody's a fucking nerd on that staff if they cast Chris Sarandon as him. Well, I guess...
Now, wait. When you're talking about Turtles, you are talking about the Heroes on a Half Shell, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Turtle Power?
Turtle Power.
Okay. All right,
God damn it. We want to talk about anything other than this movie. It's one of those episodes.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rafe Gutman offers, and the joke here that's not very funny is he gives her his card because I'm gonna need that back. I just have the one card.
That's kind of funny. Actually, when he pulls it out, it is like bent and wrinkled. And I was like, boy, that's bad set work. That's bad prop work because but then they pay it off because he's like, I only have the one. And that's why it's all wrinkled.
And that's the classic one of like joke in this movie that's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that. And then he's like, besides, my office is right here. This is really convenient. 2 doors down from the police station,
kind of
basically.
like him having the marquee that says "Private Investigation" starring Rafe Gutman, like it's a movie. That's kind of good. I like that.
But here's the thing. I know that this is his introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, you love him on TV. Here he is. It's our good friend, Dennis Miller. But the thing is, he, as a PI, one thing you definitely want to do is you want to ingratiate yourself, obviously, and you want to seem concerned because that's how you snare a client.
Right.
Is you're like, I will take your case.
Yeah.
And I know he's supposed to be quippy, but he's literally laughing at her and chuckling all the while through this. She should have walked out of there because she's talking about my brother is missing. Well, I'm worried about him, and he's like,
this is one of the big problems with Dennis Miller in this movie, right? I love quippy PIs. They're like one of my favorite things that can be in a movie. However, they're not quipping all the time. This man is never not quipping. He's never. I don't even need him to be deadly serious or tough. I just want him to be sincere about saying something.
Sincere or concerned, or at least like, well, yeah, I can look into it.
This is what happens.
Drunk with his friends, but I'll take a look.
This is what happens when you hire a man who can't act. It's not. He's not a bad actor. He can't play a character. It's not like other people who are stiff as a board in this. It's just he can't do anything other than do his stand-up.
That is all he can do.
And they talk about that. They said when they offered him, he goes, I'm not an actor. I'm like a stand-up, right? And that's what you're talking about. He can come in for a couple scenes and be funny in Disclosure.
Yep.
Everybody remembers him in the iconic movie that has aged so well, Disclosure, because men can be victims of sexual harassment too, folks.
Yeah. And any woman that would sexually abuse a man would be a cartoonish bad guy.
And boy, we're all like, I just love Michael Douglas going, "No, Demi Moore, I won't fuck you. I love my wife."
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it now. I'm Demi Moore.
Yeah, that movie is awful.
It's not very good, John.
No, it's hot take. Disclosure's bad. One of the jokes I loved on Big Mouth was when they did the stage production at their school of Disclosure as a play.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. All right. Better joke than anything in this movie. The worst Big Mouth joke is better than the best joke in this movie.
Oh, God.
So he goes, come to my, and he's immediately like, hell of a subtle legs on you, like he's just,
he's creepy. He's immediately looking at her legs, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, listen, I could pretend I'm not doing it, but you're extremely attractive. And then he does haven't I seen you somewhere before?
Yeah. Now are you sure? I swear I saw you somewhere. But the other thing about Dennis Miller and the movie, they have him like talking about how hot women are, but he's a total asexual figure.
It's true.
It's not even. It's just like you're like, this man has never had sex.
When he gets seduced by the trainee vampire later, and there's the bondage dungeon thing, he's already onto her. So even there, which is the only time in the movie that someone is coming on to him, he's just playing along with it. And it's just like, that's the thing.
I mean, why
don't I put you in these cuffs?
When you think about the classic PI characters, guys like Bogart in The Big Sleep or like Newman and Harper, there's a sexual chemistry, even if it's part of the interrogation.
They got it. They got it all day
long. That's what I mean. There's sort of this thing. And this movie has those scenes, but you're like, Dennis Miller has no interest in sex. And, looking up Dennis Miller in reality, he has been married to a woman for like 40 years. So you're going like, Dennis Miller seems like a married suburban dad. He has that vibe. Yeah. He doesn't seem like the guy is out getting something.
With a copy of Roget's Thesaurus and Bartlett's quotations right next to him, so he can do lots of references.
Hey, babe, what do you think? I'm thinking about doing this Canterbury Tales reference on the new episode.
It's like Chaucer, babe.
Yeah, it is just like so many celebrity impressions. Is when you hear somebody else do it. I am just doing Carvey's, and Carvey's Dennis. Hey, Carvey. Do you think he called up? Do you think he called up? He goes, guys, I want you to take a look at a little script they sent me called Bordello Blah. You know what? Fucking Carvey would have been better in this. He still would have been terrible, but he's more likable.
Well, I mean, for one thing, he's a master disguise.
Do you remember his PI movie, Dana Carvey, Clean Slate? I kind of like it. It's not great, but I kind of, because I do really like
That's
Carvey.
very brave of you to say.
Yeah, but I do really like Carvey, and that's...
I like Carvey, too.
His likability goes a long way in that movie, is what I'll say. Now, Master Disguise is terrible.
Oh.
Because that is a loose plot to just have him do his impressions, which are funny, but you're like, this isn't a movie.
Impressions or wacky characters like the Turtle Man.
You also have him doing like, oh, great, kids in the 2000s love a Robert Shaw from Jaws impression. Or his Scarface. You're like, dude, this is old stuff even when this came out. Kids love a Pacino and Scarface impression. All right. So he goes to the bar where Feldman was last seen. He gets the tip about the Bordello.
Yeah, well, first he meets the other guys in Corey Feldman's group, and they're all like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
We don't talk to narcs or cops or whatever.
Hey, babe, I ain't no cop. Okay.
And he gets to make a lot of jokes about, he's like, yeah, did you fall on a stapler? Why don't you get another ring for your... And he does all that stuff.
You know what, babe? Just keep the camera rolling. I'm going to do 5 of these in a row.
Yeah. But then the same guy, Jenkins, who is terrible, he's equally terrible in this scene.
And there's some Dennis Miller line here that's some kind of like, you better cut this guy off or something like, like some kind of thing like that.
But he says, you want to go with the... Oh, wait. No, he does. This isn't where that happens.
No, that's
in
later.
this scene, the teens tell him, because one of them, who's really stupid, and I don't know what the take on this character is, but basically...
This movie has no take on any character.
I know. He remembers the address of the Bordello, so that does lead Dennis Miller
because
to
he goes
the funeral home.
And he goes there, and there's an actual funeral going on.
Right. And
it's the funeral. Okay, this is weird. It's the funeral for the bar waitress we saw earlier, because we also got to have.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Well, we've got to have a joke where they have trouble lifting the coffin because she's fat.
Well, but that ends up not being the case.
Well, there's
a payoff to that.
There is a payoff
immediately.
To that. The joke is we saw her. She's a heavier woman, and I think. Miller has some kind of line where he goes, oh, big lady.
Yeah, but then we find out at the end,
yeah,
no matter how big you are, it's because they're loading corpses from the night before into the coffins along with the actual dead.
God, that's the most thought out thing in this movie, actually, is that.
It is. It is.
That is
very
the closest
layered
thing to go like, oh, okay, that's mildly clever on these vampires' part.
Well, while he's sitting there,
they would need to be having a lot of funerals, though. Once again, for the amount of people they're killing.
Yeah.
Well, thank God we're doing 40 funerals a day here, man. They're just
agreed.
On to the next one, man. One every 30 seconds.
So in this case, while he's sitting there, he's sitting next to Jenkins, who looks really out of place at this funeral.
You gotta love
and
this
is all
scene,
twitchy. He's like, it's too bright in here, man. It's too bright.
Yeah.
And he's putting sunscreen on in the funeral home.
Yeah. Hey, do you think this guy's a vampire, man?
And Dennis Miller's looking at him like, okay, you're weird.
Oh, man. I got it. Cat, move from the screen, please.
Cat,
sorry.
Move from the screen, please.
Yeah. So I'm just, because I just opened up the quotes thing. I will, if I can, give you the actual Dennis Miller one-liners for certain scenes. But if I can, I'm not going to go out of my way to search them.
No.
But yeah, I will have them here. Anyway.
Okay, good.
So so he's like, well, that's pretty fucking weird, babe. But yeah, so he goes to the church where it's this time of, what is this, Jarrell's palace, babe? Superman's dead. Okay, this is one of those things where I go, he said Jarrell, and they went, Dennis, people aren't gonna know that.
Yep.
Because I know Dennis is so specific with his references. He
would
Jor-El.
not say Superman's dad.
Yeah, he dropped a Jor-El, and they changed it to Superman's dad.
I hate when people drop a Jor-El. And if you do in a public place, you have to apologize.
Because Dennis Miller, once again, with his references, I don't even necessarily think he's like a comic book guy, but he's got a working knowledge of comic book mythology, so he can make the references.
But in the case of that's a film reference.
That is the case. Yeah, and he is. I did hear him on Leonard Maltin's podcast a couple years ago. He is a big movie nerd, is so you think he'd be more excited to be?
Nope.
No. I'm holding out for that Wesley Snipes partner role. Okay.
So in the case of this thing, the church he's gone to, this is, you have to explain though, this is where Laniak works.
Yeah.
And
Chris
it's
Sarandon,
one of those suburban super churches. That's why he makes the Fortress of Solitude reference, because it's a big glass, like cathedral kind of thing, like they've got a lot of in Houston.
Let me guess, if I said Fortress of Solitude, nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about.
And the televangelist here is we've already mentioned, is played by Chris Sarandon, and he's doing a broad Southern accented, not too well done, but still.
Well, because I mean, what kind of time is there? Nobody.
I know, and he's
think
like
there's a dialect coach on this? I will say, he sounds kind of like my uncle, who is a crazy televangelist preacher in reality, who is not from the South, but does talk like this.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those things. My mom is always so weirded out by it because they're from Denver, and he's going, "The Lord said," and she's like, "When did?"
Wow.
She goes like, "I've known him his whole life. He's never sounded like that. He doesn't talk like that."
Well, apparently that is the way you need to sound if you're, calling upon God.
I do like, though. I mean, once again, I wish they went further with this if it was a better script, because they're on to something with the satire of the greedy preacher and the cool preacher. Because I do like when he busts out a guitar and he's doing a solo.
Yeah, but also. He has never held a guitar.
No. But I'm saying,
that is some of the worst movie pretending I am playing a guitar I've ever seen.
Which, once again, you could have leaned into if you actually made it that the guy isn't playing the guitar either. That could have been funny.
Yeah, that could have been funny.
That's the thing where I'm going, like, there was opportunity for satire in here, but instead it's just this weird part of this movie because the movie isn't really about this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I like the idea of, once again, folks, go watch The Righteous Gemstones if you really want to see this thing skewered well.
Of course.
Just goddamn, that show's amazing. But so he's doing this big act, and there's a lot of cutaways to Dennis Miller going, come on.
He's like, I can't believe this.
Can you? This is crazy talk, babe. Cha-cha.
It is, it's all the stuff you expect. Like, so reach into your pockets and the Lord would do.
There's one note where he's vamping because the teleprompter isn't there, so he just goes, because the Lord said, he did say,
and it's like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming soon,
it's coming.
And then the next line comes up on the teleprompter.
That's kind of funny.
But basically, the whole thing is that he's come to see Erica Laniak where she works to tell her what he found out about the Bordello, and she is a full believer in the preacher and his mission. She works for him. And again, this would have been funny had she been an ex-porn star. Instead, it's just like, she's just ultra-conservative Christian. Great.
Yeah. No, it's just, and he goes here and he goes, I tracked your brother down to a whore, and this is the thing about a house full of whores.
And she goes, what do you mean a whorehouse? It's a house full of whores.
Pretty good. I laughed at that too.
I laughed.
But then she says, well then forget it. Like, just drop the case.
Yeah, she's like, well, if that's where he is, I don't want to. It's like, that's on him.
And he goes, whoa, babe. People are disappearing. Once again, Dennis Miller, apparently the first person to realize potentially hundreds of people have disappeared.
Oh, I know, man. The cops there really are stupid.
And people
constantly shoveling stew and chili into their mouths.
People keep going in and not coming out. I can't believe no one's noticed this, babe. It takes the genius detective intellect of Rafe Gutman to figure it out.
Jesus. But the preacher is introduced to the PI. The PI is snarky. Yeah.
Whatever. And so she goes, drop the case. I'll get you your money, right? And then he's back at the bar drink going, I can't believe she just dropped the case, man. That's crazy. And then he says something about these guys went out to get laid, and then crazy guy is like, you say laid?
Yeah, the crazy guy.
Sorry, I gave him a little too much Beetlejuice on that delivery. But
yeah, right, he's back in the bar, and also crazy guy is sitting there eating raw meat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he goes that you get this does smell a lot. I remember he goes, hey, you might want to put that thing back on the stove, babe. It's still mooing.
Yeah. You might want to run a lighter under that thing, babe.
Once again, keep it rolling. I got 6 more ready to go. I just imagine.
But I'm not going to stick around to redo them.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Done and done. Can I go now? I mean,
I got to go.
He's funny, but yes, the whole attitude in this movie is like, can I go? Am I done?
Am I done now is what he said after every take.
Can I go? Yeah, they talk about literally every day. His assistant would go, Dennis is really tired. Can you just shoot him out early today?
What
a committed thespian.
What a committed thespian.
And the one day when they're like, Dennis, we really need you to stay for this because we need a specific shot. And he's like, no, can do, babe. And they're like, he actively like forced us to cut some action beat because he just left.
Wow. I like the story about apparently he stole one of the transport trucks to run off from the set. He literally just stole one, and they're like, does anyone know where Dennis went? He just took one of the trucks. Where is he?
Yeah, they left the keys in the ignition, babe. All right.
That's on them. Buck, buck. I am just reducing him to making vaguely chicken sounds.
Yeah, I always do the cha-cha-cha, but you go to the buck, buck, buck. But I did hear he was up for the lead voice in Chicken Run at one point. So.
Yeah.
Buck, buck,
out of the
buck.
way, Mel. I got this. Buck, buck,
buck, buck, buck. See, you weren't given enough chicken, Mel.
Look out for the Colonel. Buck, buck.
It's just chicken-based references.
It is amazing his film career really just stopped. It really
well,
is.
Because I mean, you know, whatever. The man clearly is a dick to a lot of people. You know, he has his close friends like Carvey and stuff, but I think there is a certain point when even he goes, yeah, I don't enjoy giving shitty performances, and you know, what I mean, like, I think he knew he wasn't good. He's not insane.
Oh, and he does the smart thing that any comedian does, and it's actually a defense mechanism that I've used my entire life. You jump the gun. You immediately self-deprecate.
Yes.
And mock yourself.
Yeah.
And that makes you invulnerable to anyone else's mockery. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're not telling me anything I don't know. Yeah. I'm a shitty actor. Actually, and by saying that, you're like, wow, I just made myself bulletproof.
I just hit who should do this. Who should have done this. Okay. Another comedian from the same era. He would have been right at the place in his career that he would have actually taken this. And it's Dennis Leary. Because Leary
who can actually act.
Leary is a good actor, actually. Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. And I think in 96 he would have just been on the ascent enough that he might have taken this. And he would have been
he was already pretty big by 96.
He was already pretty big, but
he was a known entity.
Known entity. That's what I'm saying. Like Dennis Miller though. But not yet established as like a movie guy. He'd been doing some stuff. I don't know when Two If by Sea came out, probably around this time.
Two If by Sea.
Which, you know, I love Dennis.
Hadn't The Ref already come out?
The Ref was probably maybe this close to this same year, or rough in the... Yeah, I love Dennis Leary. I'm a huge fan of his.
I do too, and he's made a lot of shit. And he's made some really good stuff.
He has made some... he is a guy who often his best stuff is the stuff he writes. You know what I mean? I think that's because he wrote The Ref, and I do enjoy that movie. And his shows I was a big fan of. But I do think, did The Ref come out? Oh, he was doing The Sandlot. All right, I forget he's the dad in The Sandlot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was big for him. But yeah, so but I think he's Dennis Miller who actually gives a shit about being in movies. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think he's at least saying this is a different job than stand up, and I am going to give it all my attention.
Well, and I think
I'm going to act.
If I remember correctly, I think he talked about he did want to, like, he did stand up but wanted to act. Like, that was a goal.
There you go.
And Dennis Miller's like, sure, babe, if you want to pay me enough, I'll be in your dumb fucking vampire movie. Hey, what is it? Yeah. Hey, Silver, it's Miller.
God.
They did talk about that on the podcast. If there was any kind of thing, he'd go, I'm going to call Joel.
Yeah. Because that was the guy who wanted him in there really bad. So
Joel's
you got
give Dennis whatever he wants. Because they also talk about, because we talked about, Silver was producing Stallone's movie at the time, which was Assassins. And that was taking his focus because that was a big, expensive movie. Directed by Richard Donner.
I watched Assassins
I like
in the
Assassins.
theater.
It's totally written by the Wachowskis. Weirdly, screenplay by the Wachowskis.
Wow.
Yeah, well before Matrix, obviously. It's okay. It's a totally decent action movie. So anyway,
Guess what isn't?
This movie? Yeah. So Miller shows up now at the Bordello, and the guy's like, I'm sorry, sir, but the Bordello or the we're not having that service tonight.
Yeah, the old guy who's I guess just the only person who works there, the mortician, who was clearly in league with Lilith and the vampires because he's the one that lets people in. It seems strange that they would tell Jenkins, the biker, to snare people and send them to the Bordello if they ever have nights like this one where the guy is doing an autopsy or whatever and is like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
You're like, why would you have the guy out there roping people in if you're like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. No Cunningham Wake tonight. What? And that scene, by the way, of him talking to the large lady's corpse and then cutting it open and sniffing. And like, I mean, that's the stuff where I was like going, oh, ugh.
I got to say, that is the closest to a horror movie this thing gets.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's the only disturbing moment. It has nothing to do with our titular vampires. Not titular. They don't say vampires in the title, but anyway.
They are titular,
though. Titular vampires.
That's about a Tales from the Crypt level pun right there.
Yeah. But it's
titular vampires.
He tells them to go away, Gutman to go away.
Yeah. So he sneaks around, and then I love Queen of the Vampires conducting an interview for one of these jobs.
Yes.
Now tell us, what do you have here under special interests and skills? I see. Yeah.
I mean, what's the point? If you want her to be one of your vampire ladies, all you do is you bite her and you turn her, which is what happens anyway.
There's a bunch of milling about, borderline Kolchak levels of sneaking around.
You've got Dennis Miller basically just getting the lowdown of the place, and
the big clue he finds though is that nose ring we mentioned earlier. He goes, "Hey, wait a minute, that Feldman character had a nose ring."
Yes, in the
nose piercing.
The dissection area,
Yeah.
he finds the nose ring of Corey Feldman's character. He's like, "Oh, I'm on to something here."
Yeah, Den smells a clue.
Yep. And he almost gets discovered because Lilith smells him.
Yeah.
This is dumb comedy. God damn it. She's walking around like I'm a vampire whose senses have been alerted, and she's sniffing, and Dennis Miller's hiding like, oh God, the jig is up. But then she goes and then sniffs her own armpit. It's like, woof. And you're like,
weird joke.
Great.
Weird.
That's
bad
what I want to see.
Also, that's
hot lady sniffing her armpit. That's funny.
Because I got to invoke an Action Shelf thing here. It's a divorced dad joke of, could you imagine a lady that hot ever smelling remotely bad?
I love it when you're watching like a titty movie and the lady farts.
Yeah, because it's starting from that, like, hot girls don't take a shit, so they wouldn't smell, know. Jesus. So then he goes back to Erica Laniak. He goes, checking out the nose ring, babe. And he's like,
this is she's at work again when he brings this to her. And I think, isn't Preacher Man curious now?
He's kind of always sniffing around. Sarandon's kind of always around going like, And at this point, we're not really sure what his deal is. And even once again,
But we do see that the little man,
Yes.
who was the archaeologist from the opening, is working weirdly as like right-hand man to the preacher. And you're like, what is that?
Yeah,
How does that work?
yeah, what does this have to do with anything? And
No one cares. I don't care.
this whole movie is no one I mean, we literally know the people making it don't want to be making it. The actors in it don't want to be, except for Feldman. Feldman is more than happy to be here. Hey, I'm just happy not to be doing drugs, man.
Yeah, I like being out of rehab.
Yeah.
What do you got on you? No, sorry. Ignore that.
Yeah,
if I
never
ask
mind.
you if you have
No.
anything on you,
If you
just
do
say
have
no.
drugs, don't tell me, okay?
Don't tell me about your drugs.
Yeah.
Because you've got something,
Hey,
right? I mean, again, ignore that. Ignore it.
Hey, Dennis, you got any coke?
Just a joke, man. I was just totally joking right then.
Okay, babe.
Meanwhile, he's sweating. That's horrible. I don't mean to make fun of
I will say
people with chemical abuse problems.
On
Come on.
the documentary, he goes, before Bordello of Blood, man, I never had a movie that didn't open at #1. It was the first time I'd ever had a picture bomb, man. And he goes, the failure of that sent me right back to drugs.
Oh.
So Bordello of Blood saved him and then destroyed him.
Wow.
But also I'm going like, he just goes, I just thought you make a movie, boom, #1 hit.
That's the way it works, right?
But I am going like, really, man? I guess he did have a good run in the 80s, but you're telling me everything
He's another
hit
person
#1?
who was in serious classics and a bunch of shit.
Yeah, well, because he has a hard turn, right? Like in his career where it's like,
Dude, License to Drive is better than you think.
I've seen it. It's really not.
Screw you, man.
Yeah. Have you seen Dream a Little Dream? It's a classic. I will say, looking at his career, even through all the drugs, you know what? Donner does stand by him. He has small roles in a bunch of Donner stuff.
Loyalty's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it is. I mean, I think. Obviously, who cast him as a kid probably did go like, "Oh man, I just hope he's all right." So let me throw him a thing here and there,
Yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ, his career really, it's trouble after like 1990.
I blame myself.
It's like, yeah, don't you remember when I was unnamed bank robber in Maverick?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
He was unnamed bank robber.
He was just
again. That's through
That's Donner.
That's gotta be Donner.
That's
going,
Donner
come on
going
in.
like, yeah, you know what, man? You're just bank robber though. Mel Gibson can punch you through a window in this or whatever. Hey, sounds good to me, man.
I really need rent.
Yeah. Hey, Mel, you got any coke?
Totally joking, though. Totally joking.
That's also awful.
I like the idea of him being serious and constantly going, no, seriously, I was just joking.
I'm just imagining he's Jack Black in Tropic Thunder, right? Just going like, hey, you got anything, man? Of course, it's sad because Mel, of course, has had his own very famous issues with addiction.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. So she goes, hey, wait, that is a clue. That is my brother's thing. And he goes, she goes, I got to call the cops. She goes, no, babe, leave the cops out of it. They're no good. Yeah. And I love that in a script where they're just like, anyone would call the cops. We need to explain. We saw what a dummy was earlier. And Miller just goes, yeah, don't call the cops. He's just like, okay. Yeah, all right, that makes sense. And he goes, I'm going back there to stake the place out tonight. Now, when he says stake the place out, he just goes into the brothel again. That's not staking it out.
Yeah, this time he just comes back because at this point they don't know he's so he's just another person there to enjoy the prostitutes.
You know what's interesting? He's going to stake the place out, and this crazy guy who we don't like is also one of the bad guys in the movie Stakeout.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
He got work.
He's one of Aidan Quinn's goons in that movie.
Well, I hope they saw this and said, all the stuff you did in Bordello Blood? Yeah, don't do that. don't get anywhere near it.
Dreyfus specifically said, I don't know, I saw It's so funny to me about imagining Richard Dreyfuss.
And he goes, "What am I supposed to do with all this raw hamburger meat?" And they're like, "We don't care."
Richard Dreyfuss is sitting in a theater watching Bordello. Well, I don't care for this one bit.
This guy's in Mar movie? Oh, God.
Uh-oh. Did Emilio know about this? Did you tell him? This is one of our wildest episodes. So he goes, he gets in this time, and they put him into and we got to use the fucking roller coaster coffin thing again.
Yep.
Why didn't Universal put this in their theme park there, man? The Bordello of Blood funeral coaster or whatever.
I want to go on that again, Daddy. Okay.
And so when I do have this one-liner, when he comes out of the coffin, the prostitute says, "Guess where you just landed, lover?" And had to be a Miller Improv. Larry Flint's id.
Yep.
Jesus.
I think I chuckled. That one was chuckle-worthy.
That one is a.
Yep.
But you know, he did another take where he's like, I don't know, Hugh Hefner's Wet Dream, or
Yep.
Bob Guccione.
Yep.
Actually, I hope Bob Guccione's a funnier name now, Larry. But they went with the more known one, obviously.
Yeah.
But I could just hear Miller going Guccione.
It's got syllables, big. Funny syllables.
Well, I'm pretty sure the entire pop culture obsession with the Tanya Harding incident was just that the guy's name was Jeff Gillooly.
Yep. Because that is funny.
It is funny. Also a movie you should watch instead. I, Tanya, very good.
Yeah. Or The People versus Larry Flint.
Also very good, and probably came out like the same year. Yeah, excellent.
Maybe
movie.
so.
So he's now coming in here, and yeah, this is where, Jesus Christ, it's just Miller walking around.
Wait,
going,
Jesus Christ shows up in this?
"Hello, Dennis."
Oh, it's the Lord.
Oh, Dennis Miller is totally, because Dennis Miller is one of these guys. Dennis Miller's the contrarian right-wing guy, so he's not a religious guy.
Right.
So it's like religion, because Dennis Miller's always like, "Oh, I don't belong to either party. Everybody's a moron, babe." You know, he's that guy, and you're like, "Oh, I fucking hate this." But he would be the guy who goes, "No, the Christians, they're dumb too, man." Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's sort of that thing. You just believe in nothing, man. He's a nihilist.
Ooh.
This man is a coward. So they,
Man's a coward, Donnie.
no. Hey, should we be running, man? No, these men are cowards, Donnie.
Oh, God, why weren't we watching Lebowski?
Yeah, because we have to do this show, and unfortunately,
We have to.
Unfortunately, we can't watch.
Our listeners demand
one
it.
of the best movies ever made, man. Lebowski's genius. Yeah.
Does it disturb you when I say the word vagina? Do I make you uncomfortable?
Hey, no, man. Does he say something about, like, I lived through the sexual revolution, man? Or whatever? Yeah. Oh, it's okay with me, man. So he comes in, and let's see, where was I here? Oh yeah, so he gets taken to the so then he gets taken to the crazy. While this is happening, he's gonna get taken to the torture room, but the crazy guy is going, "Hey Lilith, you promised me you'd make me a vampire, and when are you gonna do that?" And then she just rips his head off.
Yeah. Oh God! All right, so she does that, and again, you're like, "Oh, that
is
was
this
for the
movie
horror
coming up
movie
on you,
beat.
man?" That's what that says. I was like, Bordello blood.
It's
coming back
backing
on
up.
me.
Here, oh God, here goes Bordello.
That movie. I saw Bordello blood. It's not sitting right.
It is repeating on me. But it is
I'm gonna be in the
painful.
bathroom all night after I rented that.
This is a thing where, okay, yeah, that's for the horror and the gore.
It looks
but
good.
In the movie, I'm sitting thinking, well, you just killed off your helper.
Yeah.
It's just like, where's the logic?
No, it really does feel like, we need like a horror kill here right now.
And she says, I like a guy who gives me head.
Yep.
And, there's some tag to it. It doesn't matter.
It's in here somewhere.
And shuts up or stays quiet or.
Just love a man who gives you head and lets you keep it.
And lets you keep it. Yeah, she says that if she tears his head off.
Yeah.
Great. And then at some point when Dennis Miller gets hooked up with the freshly made vampire chick
Yeah.
who takes him into a torture dungeon, and then he craftily turns the tables and gets her chained up to the torture device.
I don't
so
know
he
about
can
craftily
escape.
it happens, but
She also, when she's pressing against him and about to bite him, she sees a chain around his neck and goes, ah! And then she pulls his shirt open to find that it's a Star of David.
So
Ha ha ha. And she goes, oh, I thought that was a cross.
Yeah.
And by the way, this movie essentially is telling Jews everywhere, your beliefs are garbage because only holy water blessed by apparently a Christian preacher is able to save the day, and it's wielded by a Jewish man. So there you go. Take that, Jews.
So weird. He does get off a one-liner here when he says, I'd rather crazy glue my dick to the bullet train than fuck you.
Yeah, that was to Lilith. Lilith who
Oh, is that to her?
Yeah,
All right.
because she comes at him there. Yeah.
But this is where we find out he has special blood.
And also, was this earlier in it where before he comes in, geez, I can't remember where this is placed, but he sees someone else's funeral, and it was a guy who famously wasted away from a flesh-eating bacteria.
Oh, yeah.
But he sees them interning the coffin in a crypt.
Yeah.
And he's like, they're struggling to get it in, like it's really heavy. He's like, that guy. That guy was 138 pounds when he died.
That is later when he's poking around, because there is the scene when he breaks into the crypt.
Yeah, and he opens the coffin to find not only the real dead guy, but he finds the decapitated body of Jenkins.
This also has one of my least favorite things in a horror movie, which is, come on, babe, I found all the evidence. You got to come back to this place with me. And the sheriff comes back to him, and then it's all been swept under the rug somehow.
Yeah,
he's like,
I
swear it was right here.
They knew I was onto him, so they cleaned it up.
Okay, you idiot. Do.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
By the way, the name on the crypt was Gaines.
A
tribute to Bill Gaines, who was the editor-in-chief of EC Comics back in the 50s that created Tales from the Crypt.
Let's not forget, there are still nerds making this movie.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Dennis Miller, there was a lot of like, surrounded by fucking nerds on this set. Babe.
Oh, well, he wants to feel superior to everybody.
Well, they did talk about
because he is a nerd, but he wants to feel superior to other nerds.
I think Conan talked about there was the Odenkirk, Smigel, and Conan O'Brien were the three writers on staff who were the nerds, and Dennis Miller would be like, "Hey, good luck, you fucking nerds," because they didn't do drugs, and they were, it's just like, and they talked about comic books and whatever.
Yep,
and it's like, okay, hey, whatever, Bobby Odenkirk.
Yep,
which is. Time is told on those three versus Dennis Miller, I think.
Indeed, sir.
And Dennis Miller's very funny, but you're looking at three really brilliant guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Conesy. The nicknames, the nonstop nicknames too.
Love the hair.
First time he came on Conan's show, he said that, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. Love the
well,
hair,
you got a little bit more height there.
Yeah.
Huh? Well, like you need it anymore. What, you tack on an extra 6 inches there?
Look at this, babe. I expect Elvis to be surfing it in blue Hawaii. Buck. Anyway, Chicken Run's coming out this summer. That was something Feldman goes, I saw Dennis in the press saying the movie was bad and you shouldn't see it. Like, that's just unprofessional, man. That's just not cool. You just don't do that.
I agree with him.
I mean, the
movie sucks.
I mean,
but you don't do that.
It is a weird thing, right? Because I'm like, I do agree with Feldman, but I also can't blame Dennis Miller at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, one of those things where I'm going like, I don't know, man. Do you just go like, yeah, man, it's fucking great? Or
I think you do a sidestep. You go, I had fun making it. I hope people enjoy it. Moving on.
Or you go on The Tonight Show and say, when Beverly Hills Cop 3 comes out, trust me, run out and see it. It's the best one.
Did Eddie Murphy say that?
He did. I that's burned into my memory, is him going, You can take that to the bank. I'm Eddie Murphy, and Beverly Hills Cop 3 is the best of these.
It turns out he was wrong.
Oh, it's horrible.
I wasn't doing the Neutron dance.
That movie is so bad, and I love the first two so much.
I know.
But yeah.
You have the full scripts of both tattooed on your back.
It says
that was the most painful afternoon of your life.
If you really look close, you can see, is this the man who ruined the buffet at the Herald Club? Legitimately, that first movie is one of my favorite movies. Yeah, let's see.
Interior art gallery, close on Serge.
Fuck off. I will not. Still one of my favorites. I will not. This movie could use some Bronson Pinchot in it, too, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Or this movie could have used anyone who's funny and gives a damn, basically.
I like your thinking there.
Yeah. This is the thing about Dennis Miller has special blood, which is weird.
And that, by the way, never comes back.
No, they just keep going. All it is so Lilith can go, no, keep him alive. We need him.
That is the only reason. And that's the only reason it's in there, is to explain, no, let's not just pull his head off. His blood's very tasty because it's extremely rare. This is the
scene where she tries to seduce him. It's this scene that one-liner is from, because she appears in his office because he goes back to get his gun. Because I like these, like, oh, fuck, babe, this is going to be trouble. I better get my heater.
Yep.
Better
get my Roscoe.
Once again, keep it going. I got 18 more names for guns, babe. She appears and he's like, oh, once again, vampire appears out of nowhere. And he's like, oh, Lilith, nice to meet you, babe.
Yep.
And you're just like, Jesus Christ, be fazed by something. Play any other.
That's what I keep saying.
It's not even be phased.
Bill Murray,
play any other emotion.
When he's being Vinkman, and even when he's seeing Gozer and he's being flippant, behind his eyes, because Bill Murray can act, you see that he's a very scared man. And his response is to kind of like go, Gozer, babe. Yeah. And he does his funny thing, but that man is trembling on the inside. Dennis Miller in this is just
That's it, man. This chick is toast.
Yeah, he's not affected by anything.
No,
and he's giggling through all of it.
It's the same thing as Bruce Willis too. All the John McClane one-liners.
She's like, "Don't you want me?" And that's where he says, "I'd rather super glue my dick to the bullet train."
He also says, "Oh, there's another one he has in the same scene." Where she's talking about, "Don't you want me? Don't you want these?" And she said, cleavage. He goes, "I'm not going to tell you those aren't the breasts of the century, but I'm just not digging the owner."
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Because you got great tits, Angie Everhart.
If you didn't get that, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Dennis Miller the chicken.
Just reducing someone's vocal patterns to sounds is something I always enjoy.
The thing Carvey said about when he was doing Ross Perot, that it was just shap 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 down a shap shap down now. It's just sounds, man. He has always been good at that, just the rhythm that somebody is talking at.
Indeed.
So she comes in, and then you get this whole scene where she's doing like a Mystique from the X-Men kind of thing, where she's going, now I'm a cheerleader, now I'm this, now
I can be anyone you want.
Yeah. And they never go into, they say he has special blood, but like, what? She wants him to be like the king to her vampire queen? Is that the...
Or just her personal food supply?
I don't know what the deal with this is. Like,
no, that's don't bring it back.
I can't tell. Yeah, does she want the blood? Does that blood mean he'd be good at vampiring? I don't know. By the way,
I just think he's really tasty. I think that's all it is.
Maybe that's what it is, but it's so, because she talks about like, why that blood is descended from, I can't remember who she says. Somebody who could care. Honestly, who could care? You know, it's like Alexander the Great or something like that. I don't know. Sure. Ivan the Terrible, that's what it is.
Yeah, she's like, I haven't tasted that blood since Ivan the Terrible. And you're like,
He and I had
is this a plot point?
He and I had a little thing back in the day.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown. Sorry. It's just...
we both, and I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
We both need to stop bringing up a much better film.
Yeah. Just watch Ghost.
It's only going to cause us pain.
It really is. So yeah, they and once again, and then she turns into Erica Laniak finally, because I'm going like, he made some comments about her being attractive, but now the movie's going like, because he's in love with her. What?
I know.
What? I mean, I'm always somewhat questioning of movies where people meet and fall in love within a few days. It's such a movie thing.
Yeah.
Right. But this idea about like they've talked like twice ever. She seems repulsed by him, and he's just like,
and he's hot for her, but hot is not the same.
But
thing.
now it's like my heart belongs to her, babe. So once again, Dennis Miller should never play romance at all.
No,
like,
no.
What can I say? I love you, darling. Like,
and then he looks out at the camera and goes, am I selling this or what?
That's the thing, though. It's not even being phased or scared or whatever. It's just any emotion other than pfft. Like, that's the subtext of everything with Dennis Miller. Just, pfft, can you believe it? It's not even subtext. It's just text. He just is saying that.
It's just fucking text.
Yeah, so she appears as different fantasies. And then when Erica Laniak shows up, Lilith just disappears. It's another one of these things where it's like, why are vampires running from stuff?
That's true.
Shit,
so
I better
powerful.
get out of here.
Maybe it's like, I can only handle one person at a time.
No! But she's the most evil woman that's ever lived. Whatever.
She is the queen of all, the mother of all vampires.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, they now go bring this to the cops. And this is what we just talked about, that scene. He takes the cops to the funeral home, no evidence. And then, of course, the cops think he's an idiot. Erica Laniak's like, I can't believe I ever trusted you. You're a liar, Rafe Gutman. And I'm just going like,
I don't think they're going to
for the
get
love
together
of
in
God.
the end.
Yeah, I just hope.
And it's basically the scriptwriter sitting there going, great, that happened on page 75. That's exactly where that needed to happen.
Yeah, because what is this thing clocks in at like an even 90, doesn't it?
Yeah. Something like that.
87 doesn't even get
87.
That adds up.
Yeah.
This is just like, yeah, it is. This whole movie is not only Dennis Miller going, am I done? It's the screenwriters going, is that enough pages? Can you make the movie with that?
And someone in the back raises their hand and like, you could expand on the special blood thing.
No.
What about the ex-porn star bit?
No, it's gone. Like, it's all just like, yeah, we just put in that special blood thing because that's another page.
Could we give Lilith any kind of motivation?
No. Lord, no. Not with who we're looking
By the way,
at.
speaking of which, that is one of the most basic things. Is like, I'm sorry, even something that's a goofy, campy thing. What does the villain want in this movie?
Yeah, is it a take over the world kind of thing? We never get
the
there.
only thing is it's clear she wants agency. She wants to have either the key herself or the key destroyed so that she's not a slave to anybody.
Like, pitch a thing then when she's trying to seduce the little person into letting her go or something like that. Could be a running
or her
bit.
seducing the preacher who actually has the key, which
because
is in his safe.
They do that at the very last moment before she's freed.
Right. Well, that's true, but that's more of her like basically intimidating rather than seducing.
Yeah. But I'm saying like it is sort of a thing where they're going like, oh, it's just a classic example of this movie does that only when it's about something's about to happen. It will start doing something.
Yeah. It's
like,
exactly
well, this needs to happen right
we
now.
didn't set this up at all. Doesn't matter. Moving on.
It doesn't matter. That's the kind of movie this is. Yeah, she takes him off. We find. Oh, well, he's rehearsing the show, which just sets up the laser for later. And then,
God, here's the thing. All right. Oh God.
By the way, this episode is a long episode of our show and the longest anyone has talked about this movie.
Granted. And we can wrap it up soon, I'm sure. But basically, this is such an obvious setup. I mean, if they had shown us in the very first scene with the preacher, him doing the bit with the giant mechanical Satan and the laser thing, I still, if they had introduced that 15 minutes in, would have gone, well, that'll be in the ending.
Right.
Well, they'll be using that laser against vampires. But this is so late in the game, and
We're
they
like
set
an
this up,
hour
and they
into
also
this
set
movie.
up like how dangerous it is, because it's not just a laser light; it literally burns through steel and shit. And they're like, "Oh, dude, you nearly hit me with that thing."
It's
and
not
you're like,
lasers don't work. Not real. This is Star Wars lasers, you know.
yeah, and you're like, this is so heavy-handedly inserted that I'm offended. As a writer, I'm offended by this.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, they that's just to set that up, and then she says, "Well, I'd like to make a documentary about the sin in this town, the strip clubs." And he's like, "Oh, I think that is a wonderful idea."
Yeah, yeah. The only takeaway she has from finding out that her brother was last seen in the whorehouse is, "Hey, I could do a documentary about the dangers of pornography,
it's so
strip
interesting.
clubs, and bordellos."
Even if you think Dennis Miller's full of shit, Corey Feldman is still missing.
Yep.
And she doesn't
And
care.
she has given that no more thought.
Oh man, if only we'd gotten together for that drink, we could have really bonded our characters, and then this would have...
I think it was really missing all that.
Yeah. Erica, I thought you wanted to be taken seriously as an actress. You should have lunch with me. Yeah, it is always...
Or we could just, do a couple of lines. Lines in the script.
I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? No, I'm clean and sober. Jesus Christ.
I think Corey Feldman's going to track us down after this podcast.
You know what? Bring it on.
I'm expecting a knock on the door from him and his angels wanting to talk to me.
I think I'd have more trouble with the angels. I think I could take Feldman. I'm saying it right now. I think
and
I could...
actually, I've been the one nicer to him. You have just been slamming him.
I've got like 6 inches and about 100 pounds on the guy. Let's be honest. Oh no! Please stop. Oh
my God, he's moonwalking toward me. I'll never get away.
His dance fighting is too powerful. They did talk about on the podcast that Feldman did almost come to blows with Dennis Miller on this set.
Yeah,
there was a story about
Miller was being so unprofessional.
Yeah.
I do like that. That's, again,
hey,
speaking
man,
of him going,
stick to the
I may
script.
be a fuck up, but I'm here to work.
I learned my
You're
lines,
not.
man. Now, I also did some coke lines, but I did learn the script lines. So, fuck you, Miller. When they did talk about no one rushed in to save Dennis Miller, and the guy who did went, well, I guess we'll get in trouble if the star of the movie gets hurt.
Yeah, all right.
But it was everybody
Guys,
kind of wanted to see.
Break it up.
Although, once again, I just imagine they are 2 guys. Neither one of them are fighters by any stretch of the imagination.
I kind of wish I could have seen it.
It would have been a probably a sad display.
That would have been a special feature on a Blu-ray that I would have bought the Blu-ray for. If
yeah,
they had
Shout
footage of
Factory
that
if you
fight.
have that, yeah. I'm gonna fucking take you down, Miller. I've had enough of this shit.
Oh, I see a slap fight coming.
Oh, I'm gonna call my manager about you, man.
I'm gonna give you such a thrashing.
Okay, all right, let me get Joel Silver on the phone. I'm gonna tell Richard Donner you said that. So yeah,
They're fighting each other with their contacts.
yeah. All right. Well, Lorne Michaels might have a thing or two to say.
My contact can beat your contact.
So Miller, we get the Miller goes to the cemetery. I can't believe, I can, but I also am like, God damn, when they did the cat jump scare fake out, I'm like, Jesus, movie. Is there no trope you won't do in this thing?
And it's in the bloopers, them going like, oh, you can actually see the stick that is prodding that cat.
You definitely can.
I didn't actually notice it, but
did
then I
catch
read
it. I was
the
like, oh.
trivia and that.
It
was
did
fun.
strike me like I didn't immediately read, but I was like, what was that? And I backed it up and I was like, oh God.
That's great.
But yeah, so he finds the stuff in the crypt. He finds the extra bodies. And let's see. So yeah, then Sarandon goes to the strip club to confront Lilith, but he's like
Lilith and the little dude.
Yeah, and he's like, oh no, they're coming in with those cameras. If they see me in here, I'm ruined.
He's in a disguise.
Yeah.
And he shows up basically saying, This has gone too far. I just want you to kill. I wanted you to kill bad people, and I don't know.
This is
He's
what I'm
like,
saying about Sarandon.
don't forget who has the key.
This is what I'm saying about Sarandon in this movie. This is a terrible character. Would you imagine how even worse it would have been if a bad actor had played this part? Like it's like he is slumming it being in this movie. This is a gift to them, and they just, I mean, they're obviously, they speak well of him, but it is like, well, that's nice, but you gave him nothing to do in this thing.
Yep. And yes, so then it's just crazy coincidence. But yes, Erica Laniak happens to be doing her documentary at the same time, so she has come into the strip club with putting her camera in people's faces.
Why are you here?
Why do you come to
would
places
you come
like this? Why are you here?
Oh, for the titties. I'm just like, what possible answer? I'm like, am I supposed
this
to like?
is going to be a really good documentary.
Am I supposed to like Erica Laniak? Because I hate these conservative people going like, why would you participate in this sin? You know?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like, god damn. This is like Daily Wire shit. But yeah, so they run outside, and this is the confrontation over the key, and ultimately the little person destroys the key, and I thought, God, it was that easily destroyed? You just throw it on the ground and it shatters. She goes, I'm free.
Yeah, what drove Sarandon to the strip club is that he realizes that the little guy has stolen the key out of his wall safe.
Right.
Along with money. So he goes and he's like, you give me that back. It's the only thing that's controlling her. So in the alley, they have the three-way fight. Lilith going, give me the key. And I'm going. Basically, she was talking to the little guy about, we can expand. We could have places like this. She's talking about a strip club.
Yep.
Lilith, the mythical creature lady, is talking about how awesome it would be to open up strip clubs for vampires or whatever.
And then what? Just slaughter even more people and draw more attention? To what end, as you're talking about? What's the goal?
And Chris Sarandon's going, no, you know what we're doing is right. You have to give the key to me. And then the little guy goes, screw that, and throws the key against the wall, breaks it, and she is free, and she kills Chris Sarandon. No, she doesn't.
No, she does. Actually, she doesn't do anything, Chris Sarandon.
Doesn't he get thrown?
Oh, maybe he gets thrown because she stabs him later, but that's after.
That's right.
Dennis
Yeah,
Miller
he still has to have his hero moment later.
Yeah, which is so weird.
It is weird. But now she is free. Watch out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, she destroys Key. She's free. Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller shows up with photos of a coffin, and they go, yeah, but there's nothing in. These are empty coffins. He goes, no, but when I took the pictures, babe, there were bodies in there.
Well, the only body that shows up is the real dead guy,
right?
But not the vampire dead guy. So they're like, dude, you're sick taking pictures of an old dead guy in a coffin.
What I like about this is this isn't the clue. It's the thing when they look at the footage of her documentary. And
because he's like, what? And then literally the next scene, it's happening seconds later.
Right.
So again, this is bad construction. Yeah. He sees that the photos are missing the dead vampire. Then she is looking at her footage because she interviewed Lilith in the strip club. And not only it looks like she's interviewing empty air. She's like, that woman was there. I was talking to her. Then they also see that Chris Sarandon, she's like, that's him.
And then if they want to, then they go even one step further because ring, ring on the phone, it's Feldman. All of this happens in like a minute of screen time.
Boom, boom. And Feldman's like, hey, sis, I'm sorry I've been out of the loop. Hey, meet me here. I'm in trouble.
Hey, sis, don't you think it's about time to wrap this movie up?
That's exactly it. And she's
like, need a climax about now.
She gets Gutman back into it.
Yeah. There's a very minor chase scene.
Oh, yeah.
A very minor chase scene because they go to this abandoned factory. Vampire Feldman's there.
Yep.
And they got to get chased. Well, Miller shoots him, of course, and then no effect because vampires.
And he goes, being a vampire's awesome.
Hey, man. Sleep all day, party all night. It's fun to be a vampire. Remember that movie? It was a lot better than this one.
He just looks out of the camera and goes, Frog Brothers.
Yeah, Frog Brothers.
And like,
right?
we got it.
Right?
We got it. Thanks.
No, come on, man. Hashtag, where's the sequel? And the answer
is, read the comic.
The answer is we will see those terrible straight-to-video sequels that Feldman is in both of them next season.
You're hurting me.
Yeah, there are two of those things, and he's in both because Feldman Feldman probably set those things up, man. And then I'll do the original song.
And then I'll do this dance, and it'll look like something that MJ used to do, but it won't be. It's my original.
Yeah, not at all.
Now,
man.
true, I will go hee hee, but that's just
Here's the thing, man. MJ stole that from me.
You'll note he never did that in the song until after we were friends, and we were. We were very close.
He was my closest friend. When he was on the date, she goes, "He was my hero, man." I'm like, oh boy, pick better heroes, Feldman. You hung out.
Better heroes is a good quote. That's just a generally good quote.
I'm just going like, you hung out with Spielberg and Donner, but your hero was Michael Jackson. Okay, man, great, whatever. Richard Donner, beloved by all from everything I've ever heard, as one of the nicest people in Hollywood. He's going, I just really gravitated to Michael Jackson.
I'm sure he loved Donner too.
Because Donner
was looking out.
Donner bailed him out at nonstop, man. Yeah. Donner literally got him out of jail a couple times, probably.
Yep.
You cops, you guys like Lethal Weapon, right? Can you let my friend Corey out? Oh, sorry, Dick.
I screwed up again.
The amount of times he was crying in Richard Donner's car. Right? It's okay, Corey. No, man, I just fucked up again, man. They're never gonna let me in another Friday the 13th.
Oh my God.
So
but
anyway,
again,
yeah,
more power to him.
She gets taken here. Dennis Miller goes flying out a window, or I'm sorry, Dennis Miller's stunt double goes out a window.
Goes flying out a window, crashes on top of the cop's car. I can never get enough scenes of people ending up on cops' cars while cops are like, "What?" Love it. I bit through my donut.
Speaking of done better by Richard Donner, that girl falling on the car at the beginning of Lethal Weapon, way better.
Yeah, much better.
Pretty good. So they this is the weirdest though. When you cut to Dennis Miller and he's on his stomach strapped down on a hospital bed. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then it's a movie from 1996, so there has to be a Whoopi cameo. And I say this as somebody who loves Whoopi. But what?
Love her conditionally.
No,
I mean, she's done a lot of terrible.
She has, but I always love Whoopi. I love her as a comedian, as a comedic presence.
It's true, and even this dumb line she delivers okay.
Of course, but it's also one of those things where you're like, Whoopi.
I know I should have gotten a private room.
Yeah, but
keep the noise down.
But it's also one of those things where I'm going, Whoopi was never on set with anyone else with it, because it's a cut to a close-up and then a cut back to Dennis Miller looking. Because, yes, this vampire nurse comes in.
Yep.
I do like that Dennis Miller also just instantly escapes from his restraints. Great work, hospital.
I know. Plus, the whole... I mean, this movie's stupid. These vampires...
And aren't you glad, folks, we're talking about it for 3 hours?
Oh, man, we got to wrap this up soon because, again, I always get to the hungry part. And that is making me more angry at this movie.
I have noticed the dumber the movies are, the longer the episodes get, weirdly.
Maybe so. And it also means we go off on tangents a lot more.
Yeah, it is true, yeah. So, yes.
But the vampires literally... they're going after him. They want to get rid of Miller.
Yeah.
But that's pretty ballsy to send in a vampire into a hospital, a public space, and literally kill the chief of police right there in a room.
Yeah.
And it takes like 4 seconds. He sees the silhouette of the vampire lady go, and then the police's chief's body hits the ground, and Dennis Miller's like, I gotta get out of here, babe. And then he gets out of there.
He stabs his IV into the vampire's head and then pushes her in front of a window where she explodes. It's a pretty solid vampire explosion.
Yeah. What was that movie we saw that had the whole... Oh, was that the... Well, The Addiction did have Vampire Nurse in it, but that's not what I was thinking of. There was another one we saw that had a vampire in a hospital and a similar thing where the window gets opened and they explode.
Yeah.
But this thing is and he does some dumb line like, is it true what they say about vampires and sunlight? And you're like, why? How did that vampire nurse get there if it was that bright daylight outside?
And also, because it's so bright that just being in front of a window would cause her to not only burn but explode.
She explodes
from very little sunlight.
And again,
It's a
take the
good
gore.
effect, man. Actually, it's the one thing where the makeup effects guy was very proud of this. He did say on the thing, he goes, "That was pretty sweet."
when when Miller goes back to the place ready to take everybody down, and he's got the super soaker full of holy
and boy,
water.
they picked the most original song for this montage of action, didn't they?
Holy crap!
Ballroom
Ballroom
attack
Blitz.
and a center, turn into a ballroom blitz.
Here's the thing about
you should not be allowed to use that song for a fight montage ever again.
or any film. The thing is, with a lot of these obscure songs that someone uses perfectly in a movie. Obviously, Scorsese does that a lot. Tarantino does that a lot, and they're not obscure when Scorsese. It's just they're usually classic rock songs.
Well,
that are way out of date.
Scorsese is the classic rock songs that then go like, "Oh, great! Now I can never use that song." Like you are not allowed to use House of Rising Sun after Casino. Like no.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and Ballroom Blitz is Wayne's World. You leave that alone. And I know that was a cover version, but still, it's like, dude, that was the obscure song brought out of obscurity. Find your own.
My Sharona after Reality Bites, no way.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Leave it alone.
It
got married to a scene already. It's married.
I remember Jody Hill, who I love, who works on Righteous Gemstones. He made a movie that I love and nobody else saw called Observe and Report with Seth Rogen. But
I thought about watching it.
Oh, I really like that movie. It's very weird and dark and bloody and strange. But at the end of the movie, they wanted to put in "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies, and he went, "Fight Club." I don't. They ended up using a cover of it that sounded different. Like it was a different take on the song even. But he goes, "I couldn't use the real one even though it fit because Fight Club owns that song." Like, and it is sort of that thing. I have that thought too, where you're going like, yeah, that movie used it perfect. There are movies that use the same song as other movies. You go, well, they actually used it better. I think that. Well, I know we disagree on this, but I think Tarantino uses the Cat People song better than Cat People in Bastards. But
I mean, he uses it better, but it's the anachronism that I don't like. Just like I'm really enjoying the Willow series, which I've mentioned before.
Oh, it's great.
But it uses pop songs. It uses familiar pop songs in that fantasy setting.
But that's not a real world. That's not actually the past.
No, I know, but it's a fantasy world that should have nothing to do with the Backstreet Boys or whatever the fuck song they're using that week.
This is one we're on hard opposite. Do you hate the movie A Knight's Tale?
Well, and The Knight's Tale was doing that. That was the whole gimmick. Everything was anachronistic. Yeah. So it's not even being logical within its own world.
It's an inspirational sports movie just in a medieval setting. Is what I love about that movie, right? It's a classic like
I enjoyed it. That was the first time I ever saw Laura Frazier, and I love her.
That's interesting because I was gonna. There were a few other people I thought that I was gonna say Laura Frazier is great, but I was gonna go like, I like Bettany or Two Dyke.
No, I love all those people, but I was familiar with them. That was the first time I saw Laura Frazier.
No, I think I'd maybe seen Two Dyke. I thought that was kind of the coming out party for Bettany.
That's your experience.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, they have her captured, and because this movie just needs to end, Dennis Miller just runs his car into the front of this bordello.
Well, okay. They have her captured, and I don't remember if it's happening.
Oh, it's in
right
here.
now.
This is where
Lilith does the thing where she's like, "Yeah, you're pretty hot," and this made no sense. Speaking of she's Lilith, the mother of all vampires. She's ancient, and she says, "I've never killed a woman before."
I thought that was weird too. How is that possible?
If she's turned women into vampires, she has killed them.
Oh, she doesn't see it that way, I guess. It's just
I guess not, but I've never killed a woman before, and even here she doesn't. But basically, she's like going, "Ooh, a lot of people are breast men or whatever. Like some people are all into the neck." She goes, "I like a different place," which is a setup for the ending. Yeah. She's down near the body doubles, crotch or legs or thighs. And you're like, oh, I wonder if she's going to bite her in a different place. We find out she did, but not yet. We don't find out yet.
And Donald Trump saw us and said, like, I like her ideas.
Yeah. Donald Trump probably owns this movie.
Dennis Miller.
What was the movie that he was famously in love with? Was it Iron Eagle or something?
It's Bloodsport.
Bloodsport.
But he made them fast forward through anything
To
that
the
wasn't
good parts.
fighting. Which you're going like a movie that's like 80% fighting, and he can't handle 10 minutes of dialogue. It's like an 80-minute movie that's mostly fighting, but there's a couple scenes that set up some of the fights. He's like, boring.
John, here's a hot take. I hate that guy.
I
hate him.
I can't say I'm a big fan either. You're talking about Donald Trump, star of the film Ghost Can't Do It?
Yep.
I
Star
love-
of Home Alone 2.
I
Lost in
love
New
the
York.
script. I love the script for Ghost Can't Do It. I thought that what a hilarious idea. A ghost can't do it. So
He goes, however, I will say this, and I told this to the I can't do Trump. I told this to the producers. I said, if I were a ghost, I could.
yeah.
Make sure that somewhere in the movie it's made clear that my character, if he was
Yeah.
a ghost, could
Yeah.
still get it.
I'm not a ghost, but I make it clear the ghost say, "Oh, look, that one guy. If he was a
That
ghost,
one guy,
he'd
he
be
would
doing
be able
it.
to totally
He'd
do
be
it
doing
anytime.
Now,
Anytime.
any word yet about how my audition for Bordello of Blood went?
You guys are tight with him, right?
Well, Marla Maples is almost in this, and I think she was married to Trump at the time of this movie. So
I don't even understand that as stunt casting. She still would have had to speak lines. Marla Maples
can't fucking
Jesus.
act. No, of course not. So he runs his car
this is
in.
all making me
This is
sad.
how we kill. This is how we killed the doorman of the funeral home. He just gets hit by this
Yes,
car.
because he goes, "Oh, what's that sound?" And Dennis Miller drives the car
Drives
into
the
the
car
front
through-
of the place.
and it. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Sorry, cat turned off the screen. Good stuff, bud.
Oh, Colombo.
Yeah, this is where they he comes. Is this where he does the Lucy, I'm home?
Probably.
I think that's we get a Dennis Miller.
Or it was in the factory. Maybe.
It's one of them. I don't remember. It's the first.
And one he goes, "The first time I see an Addams family member, I'm out of here."
I also love Dennis Miller. He takes the doorman guy out with the car, and then he steps out of the car and just shoots the little person. It's just like, all right, here we go. And just like, man, there is a part of me that very briefly is like, what a weird movie to see Dennis Miller just shoot someone in cold blood. You just don't see it coming.
I do notice all through it that he handles his gun very awkwardly.
Yeah, because Dennis Miller shouldn't have a gun. And he
and probably has never touched one before that he made this
No,
movie, and
and
no
like-
one said, "You need to look like you know what you're doing."
Even in Murder in 1600, where he's a cop, he like has a gun on his hip. I don't think he ever actually shoots anyone. I think he's just there to be on the phone to Wesley.
In this
going,
movie,
I ran
for
the
those at home,
files."
if you have the misfortune to watch Bordello of Blood,
Yeah.
watch the way he's holding it up,
Yeah.
and as he walks, he's constantly kind of jiggling it back and forth, and he constantly has his finger on the trigger. No one does that.
Nope.
You're not supposed to do that.
No.
You keep it on the outside of the guard
Trigger
until
discipline,
you're ready
sir.
to shoot.
Trigger discipline, sir. Also, keep that barrel down. Always point
not
the
this
barrel
guy.
down.
Not this guy.
Yeah, no. Hey, John's Gun Corner found its way into an episode of Meet the Monsters. No, I've talked about guns on here before. It
Yes,
doesn't
you
matter
have, and
because
it's made me uncomfortable.
because I'm a lefty gun guy. I'm
Yeah.
a lefty gun.
Gun
in theory.
toting libtard.
I don't have any guns. I don't really like guns, but in theory, if they're going to be in a movie, I want them to be accurate. Is more what my
Sure.
thing is for. So anyway, and because I write things that have guns, I try to know about them a little bit at least. But no, he's going to quickly switch to the holy water here. But of course, it just happens to also come barreling in as Chris Sarandon. He's there separately to do.
Separately, he's just decided that same night he's taking them all down himself.
You're making me nervous, Padre, friend or foe here. That was
And he
very
comes
Dennis
in
Miller.
and he's like, "Yeah, are you with me or against me?" He's like, "I want to destroy all these evil vampires,
And then we
I'm
get
now a good guy."
Squirt guns,
And then he
full
shows
of
he's
holy
got
water, which we literally just saw last week in From Dusk Till Dawn.
yeah, but he also has stakes
Yeah,
under his coat, which does he use them?
I don't think he
remember him
does.
using
No, which is weird. I mean, holy water in a squirt gun, that's a fine idea, I guess.
It's been used again and again and again.
It has, and here it's the main scene where it's just, and once again, Dennis Miller as action hero, he's just shooting a squirt gun off camera. You know, like it's not. And these vampire ladies are going up though, man.
Yeah, he's just and I do. It's hilarious because they are in lingerie or whatever it's like a wet t-shirt thing right before they explode. So the camera zooms in on, he's squirting them with holy water. You get them going, oh no, my nipples are showing, and then they explode.
These vampires are really concerned about whether or not people see their nipples, you know.
And there's this one dumb shot that was kind of funny though, which is one of the vampire ladies runs into frame. The camera is low, so you're just seeing her legs. And then as she gets farther back, you see that it is just her waist down. It's just bodiless legs running.
There's
blindly.
A few things like that, like the nurse exploding, where you're going like, oh, here's where the special effects crew came in to add the stuff. You can kind of tell where the good effects guys pick their moments in them, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Sure.
You get I think you get a somebody exploding into a cash register, and Dennis Miller going cha-ching.
He doesn't.
No, he does. There's a cha-ching in here. I don't know what sets it up, but there is a cha-ching.
Oh my God, you may be right.
There is a cha-ching in here, and I think that is the case, because I think they literally just filmed Dennis Miller saying different things and then came up with gags to make the one-liners work. And so I think
is that why the chicken keeps showing up?
A buck. But no, I think because it's behind. There's a bar in the Bordello, and one of them explodes into it, and you hear the cash register open, and it cuts back to Dennis going cha-ching.
Oh God.
So I think that's in here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in there. It's in the quotes at the very least.
Well, he gets down to Erica Laniak. He saves her.
Yeah.
He breaks her out, and then they're chasing.
Yeah, let's see. Well, because Erica Laniak stabs fucking Sarandon. Jesus Christ, who could care? Stabs her. Oh, no, because he doesn't, Dennis Miller doesn't save her. Chris Sarandon unties her, but it's not Erica Laniak. It's Lilith doing the Mystique thing again.
Right. She did
and
she stabs, I'm her, but I'm not.
She stabs Chris Sarandon, which is so weird. She's biting and ripping hearts out, but then she just stabs Chris Sarandon because he has to live long enough to go, oh, I've made mistakes, and you've got to save Erica Laniak. Or no, you know, they do save Erica Laniak. You've got to broadcast to the world that vampires are real.
Oh yeah,
because then that sets up the finale at the TV station or at the church.
I know I hate movies that set something up literally right before they happen, because that is
this movie
writing.
Also is like, dude, you've got a warehouse fight, the fight at the Bordello, and then you're at the church. No, you've got to pick your third act setting. You don't get to do all three of these.
Well, you do, John, in this film. So they do end up at the Cathedral television studio.
Yeah.
And
now Dennis Miller's operating a camera?
Dennis Miller's operating the camera. The character of Jones or Jonas, who has not been introduced properly, but who is like the tech guy at the cathedral, who did talk to Erica Laniak and the preacher at one point. But he's in the booth. He gets murdered by Lilith, who's now on the scene.
And this is where she says, don't eat your heart out. That's my job. And then tears his heart out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And yeah,
once again, Angie Everhart is no actress, but these lines are awful also.
Oh, they're awful.
It's not...
But yes, Dennis Miller is up on the camera thing, and he's operating the camera like, I guess a PI would know how.
Yeah.
And also
what is this? Just point and shoot, babe?
And also broadcasting live?
Yeah.
Over what?
Because they say as soon as Jonas flips the switch, we'll be live. Yeah,
live on what? Even if you're the PTL. Let's say that they are on an actual 24-hour
That's
Christian
what I was thinking.
network.
Well, and obviously this is very much supposed to be sort of Jim Bakery, right?
Yeah, sure, but still.
I mean,
fuck that.
Yeah. Joel Osteen.
But anyway,
kind of
thing, Lilith gets Dennis Miller.
And handcuffs him and goes, I'm going to make you watch me kill Erica Laniak.
Right. So that's just an excuse to have him unable to do anything.
He's hanging
but
off of the thing. Yeah, he's dangling there from the handcuff. And
here's a big problem, John.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Dennis Miller was not at the cathedral when they practiced the laser.
You're correct.
He doesn't know what that is. According to him, but here he is dangling, and his foot is within reach of the control
Well,
panel.
the only
for the
thing
laser.
he does know is that it says laser control panel. So he goes like, "Yeah, guess that'll come in handy, babe."
It's asking too much of me.
But yeah,
to,
how he
to
knows
believe that Gutman is like, right, if I turn this on, I use this toggle, I hit this button,
and
a laser will go through her.
the tension of the scene being we're waiting for the laser to warm up.
And also, will his foot be able to accurately direct the laser cannon?
I can't believe we didn't get a like fire phaser Scotty or something.
Oh my God! Yes, they missed that.
How is there not
set phasers to bye, babe?
That's it, man. I 100% am sure he said that and they just didn't use it. But set phasers to bye, babe is what here's the thing. Like, that sounds like we're making a joke. That line would not have been out of place in this movie.
No, not at all.
Not one bit. But I can't believe he didn't give us a like.
So
now I know what the guys on the Death Star felt like.
Lilith does look bad because she did get wounded in the because
it shoots a cross into her back. The laser makes a cross.
Well, before that.
Yeah.
Before that, that's where she's mocking because he literally used an axe and cut her diagonally. Yeah. And she laughs and she's like, you don't know how it works. That's not enough to destroy me. And I don't know how he knows about it has to be cut in 4 does she actually say you have to cut my heart in 4 pieces?
Yeah, she says you may have got me in the heart, but don't you know you have to cut it into 4 pieces?
Well, that's good. Villains should always be totally explicit about, just like Superman the first time he met Brainiac was like, I hope you don't have any chunks of my old planet.
Oh shit, he does.
But so Lilith is wounded, but she's going after Erica Laniak, and then Gutman is able to direct the laser, which is in the shape of a cross, and he's able to really pinpoint right through. Oh, this is amazing.
Hang on, babe, I'm aiming this sucker.
Lilith is standing in front of Erica Laniak, not to the side. So how does this laser go through Lilith, we're cutting her heart into 4 pieces, but not?
No. That's not what cuts her heart into 4 pieces. It's Erica Laniak with the pitchfork from the stage that gets her.
Oh, I thought it was the cross-shaped laser.
No, that would have. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's how crazy this movie is.
Because it does punch through her chest in the shape of a cross.
But because it's just
if it had gone through her heart, it would have literally.
But apparently that didn't work because then she turns around on Miller in full monster form now.
Oh,
in full witchy poo
You're
face.
You're right. And
Erica Laniak gets her with the pitchfork, and then the
devil pitchfork.
The pieces of her heart explode out, and Dennis Miller catches them.
Yeah.
Weird
or awesome?
Weird. And he's like,
oh no, you're right.
Ew, babe, ew. I'm holding the heart here.
I guess I better find that extremely intricate box.
Yeah.
Where did he end up with that?
Found that in Chris Sarandon's safe while we were at
Probably.
it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they go.
Here's the.
They go and cremate her in the funeral home with a rabbi. And Jesus Christ, Dennis Miller can't resist. He's got the yarmulke and he goes, "Hey, Rabbi, let's go with my outfit."
Yeah,
it's like,
and he goes, "It looks very good on you."
I am going too many quips. Like, it is just, I've OD'd on quips by the time he's doing that.
But here's the important thing.
Yeah.
Erica Laniak's character's name, I don't think we've mentioned once because I can't remember it.
I don't. But
Erica Laniak.
I just watched this. Catherine, I guess, is her name.
Catherine, sure.
Catherine Verdeau.
Yes, they have fallen deeply in love. It's obvious
somehow.
Yeah. So they leave the funeral home. All the vampires are dead, and he's like, "Huh. So now you're going back to your boring life, but maybe." With me around, it won't be that boring. No,
it's gonna be more boring, just with a lot more quips. Jesus.
Yeah. She gets in the station wagon. He gets into the passenger seat. He has the little box, and he's like, So give me a little sugar, babe.
And I'm going, I do not want to see these two kiss.
But they do.
Yeah.
And what is her giveaway? Does she just bite him, or does he look down and see the bite marks on her thigh?
His hand is going up her thigh. And he's like, "Hey, babe, what's this?"
Oh, he goes in to kiss her and he checks her neck. He's like, "Just being safe."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they kiss, and then his hand's going up her thigh, and he sees the bite marks on her thigh.
Yeah.
And then she is a vampire, and she kills him right there in the car in broad daylight.
Doesn't make any sense.
By the way, she's able to handle the broad daylight. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. This doesn't make any sense.
Maybe she's in that stage where Jenkins was.
But
she can kind of go out.
But Jenkins couldn't bite people.
Oh, yes. Because he goes, "What's that smell, babe?" And she goes, "It's sunblock."
God, yeah, you're right. As if that also still makes any sense.
No, it doesn't. But see, the movie, just like a Tales from the Crypt thing, has this twist at the end.
It was a very Tales from the Crypt, and I'm going, in a half hour, I would have accepted this. Like I said, this is a 30-minute episode of Tales from the Crypt. I would have been like, I guess that one was okay. But as a 90, almost 90-minute movie, awful. And this ending is just like, oh, this doesn't actually make any sense, but you guys you had to do the Tales from the Crypt ending.
And then it cuts back to Crypt Keeper, who has won the
I
contest,
guess they'll make
and the mummy
a
is
gorgeous
ahead.
couple. And yeah, William Sadler is just ahead.
Yeah, and then he goes, "We'll see you next time, kiddies." And I'm sitting there going, "No, we won't.
No, we won't. No. I mean, I think there's another season of Tales from the Crypt after this, but not. In fact, they actually talked about that on the podcast. They said the next season, the last season of the show, suffered because these guys, the main writers, were making this movie.
Yeah.
And they were like, so we kind of feel bad that we let that slide.
And also HBO gave up. I mean, I
think
they
the
were
budget
like, wow.
the budget was down, and yeah. I think that was where they moved it to. I think they moved the filming to Vancouver or something like that. They moved it somewhere for tax purposes, because I think they talk about that on there. They go like, and then we couldn't get better actors.
Well, Joel Silver specifically, his production company was having issues with unions.
Yeah,
and
so I think it was something like that, because I think they also
that's
talk
why
about,
they went to Vancouver.
I think they also talk about that on the podcast, going like, so also the last season we didn't get any good because one of the things Tales from the Crypt did get was good actors who would come in for an episode.
Yep,
going like, I normally wouldn't do TV, but if you just want me to work like a week on this, that's fun. And people like Zemeckis and Donner were directing episodes too.
John, there's something important I need to tell you, besides the fact that I think Santa's on his way.
And actually, we're getting coal because we watched this movie.
Yeah. We've been very naughty.
Sorry, Santa.
I'm extremely hungry.
Me too.
So let us bury this one.
Yeah, and don't ever watch this movie.
This is not the worst film we've seen.
No.
But just like John was saying earlier, it is the fact that there is talent involved, a budget involved, and a legacy, as in a good TV show. It's like behind it. It's sad. There is no reason to watch it, even if you were that horny dude. It's not good for horny guys either.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work as a horror movie, as a comedy, as erotica. It doesn't work as anything. So skip it.
What's next week, John?
Next week on the show, well, I'm not sure this is going to put you out of your misery, man, because next week on the show, things are getting very pulpy as we watch Jim Wynorski's Vampirella.
Oh.
That's right, folks. It's the Vampirella movie from 1996.
Oh, John.
Starring
that one actually hurts because
starring
I
Talisa
have a
Soto.
Love of that comic.
We are both Vampirella fans, so we should love this, right?
It is awful.
Starring Talisa Soto and
the great
Roger Daltrey. Yeah, I'm a vampire. Roger Daltrey is the bad guy in this. That makes me curious. I have seen some other Jim Wynorski movies. So I kind of know what to expect. Sleaze king that he is.
Well, actually, if I remember correctly, this is one where he tried to pull that back.
Yes.
Because I think that the license holders were like, she's never taken her top off.
No.
So
It doesn't have that, but I mean, it's just got, there's a general sleazy vibe about it.
Well, really low budget.
Yes.
Extremely low budget, if I remember.
And
correctly.
they do go at the costume, but it is not good, of course. But they do try to do the classic Vampirella costume.
It gets a real bad rap. So we'll.
I've never. Have you ever seen this movie? I've never seen this movie.
Oh, I saw it on cable years ago.
Yeah, I never.
And
I
don't think I
this
finished
one.
it. I think I turned off.
I just avoided this one. So
It's like if they. It's like watching the Corman Fantastic Four, except
Yeah.
I watched all of that out of really, really morbid fascination.
and actually,
But,
as I've said, there are things about that are still better than some of the other Fantastic Four movies, which is sad.
Word.
Yeah, and
word.
actually, I can't believe we haven't had a good Vampirella movie.
It is true, and I think it's only because of rights or Warren Publishing
It just seems like it's
went out of business.
You can
and then
imagine that
Harris
movie
Comics
being good.
owned her, and then Dynamite. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
Dynamite still has her because they're still doing stuff. So anyway, we'll have our thoughts about 1996's Vampirella next week on the show, but I don't think it'll be good. But going in with low expectations, so it might surprise us.
Indeed.
But that's next week on the show. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And until next week, remember, there are such things as monsters.
I hope you're not too scared, kiddies.